Hello friends, Steve Stockton here. This video, by popular request, is a marathon of some of our creepiest cases ever. Join me. Let's walk and see. Hello friends. In this video, we bring you some of the most unbelievably bizarre and creepiest disappearances we've ever covered. Some of these defy the imagination. So buckle up, it's going to be a wild ride. First disappearance, Jeremiah Foco. 36-year-old Jeremiah Foco left his apartment and headed for his job as a software engineer at Oracle in Bellevue, Washington, on July 22, 2015, only to never be seen or heard from again. Jeremiah grew up in Standish, Michigan, a small town with around 1,400 residents, and graduated from the Standish Sterling Central High School. In his spare time, Jeremiah enjoyed golfing and snowboarding, and Jeremiah's parents still call the small town home. On July 22, 2015, Jeremiah phoned his boss at Oracle, telling him that he was coming into the office to get his laptop repaired, but he never arrived. This was extremely out of character for Jeremiah, with his father, Edward, telling ABC News, "It makes no sense. Something had to have happened." As the hours passed, his boss waited for Jeremiah to arrive, but that moment never came. His boss then contacted Jeremiah's family to let them know what was going on and to ask if they had seen him or had contact with him. His family was shocked to hear that Jeremiah hadn't shown up to work, and they, in turn, contacted the police in Seattle. The Seattle Police Department took Jeremiah's disappearance very seriously from the get-go and began retracing Jeremiah's last known movements. CCTV cameras showed Jeremiah pulling into the parking garage of his apartment complex at 12:07 a.m. on July 22, 2015. This wasn't the only piece of CCTV footage that the Seattle police uncovered. Later that day, a man matching Jeremiah's description is seen walking down the stairs of the International District bus station, the bus station that Jeremiah used to get to work. The man can be seen walking down the stairs carrying a backpack. Now, friends and family are convinced that the man in the footage is Jeremiah. A close friend of Jeremiah's, Jocelyn Combray, told 213 Fox News, "It's nice to see him. We know that he was okay as of 7:02 Wednesday. It was comforting to see him walk and see the back of his head." Just as the man approaches the bottom of the stairs and walks toward the tunnel, the footage glitches out. Once the glitch clears, the man is gone and there are no further sightings of him. The Seattle police have never publicly confirmed whether the man in the footage is indeed Jeremiah Foco. Renee Charchan, Jeremiah's mother, told ABC News, "Every day I think that this can't be real, yet every day I wake up and it's real. He got up, got ready for work, and fell off the planet. I just hope and pray every day that there will be some sign." On August 25, 2015, Jocelyn Combray, who runs the Facebook page Missing Jeremiah Foco, posted, "All known activity including last phone call, financial activity, employment presence, vehicle use, iCloud use, bus pass use, even a visual by surveillance in the parking lot, ATM and apartment complex. All activity ended by midnight the morning of Wednesday, July 22, 2015. On the day that he disappeared, for whatever reason, Jeremiah did not use his bus pass. Users on Reddit have speculated that the person seen in the bus station is Jeremiah, and speculate that the ticket system was down and therefore his pass would have not registered any activity. As Jeremiah has been missing for some time, he had not paid his rent and his family were subsequently served with an eviction notice. In a further post dated January 10, 2016 on the Facebook page, Jocelyn wrote, "As mentioned in the previous updates, A group of his friends came with trucks and waited on the curb for his belongings to be placed outside the Jeremiah Village apartments to follow normal eviction protocol. We salvaged all of his personal belongings, such as documents, clothes, memorabilia, and some household items, but we weren't able to store larger furniture. Currently, his belongings are stored in the garage of one of his friends' houses. They are slowly going through his belongings to search for clues, but nothing yet. We found the shirt and shorts he was positively ID'd in the apartment surveillance video in his dirty hamper, so we know that he changed since 12:07 a.m. Wednesday, July 22nd, 2015. We continue to call his cell phone, and the number has now been disconnected. Bizarrely, after Jeremiah's disappearance, his car was found behind his apartment on 6th Avenue South. Now it is unknown whether Jeremiah or another person moved his car out of the parking garage. Since their son's disappearance, Jeremiah's parents have been heavily involved with the Seattle Police Department and flew out to Seattle to help with the search for him. His parents also provided DNA samples to the police department so the identification of remains would be faster in the event that Jeremiah was found. Around 20 to 25 of Jeremiah's closest friends and family dedicate their time to keeping the investigation alive and undertaking their own investigation. The Seattle Police Department does not suspect that Jeremiah met with foul play. However, they have stated that his case is still active and open. Jeremiah Foco was 36 years old when he was last seen on July 22, 2015. He is described as a white male with brown hair and brown eyes. Jeremiah sometimes uses the nickname Jay and sports a shaved head. He was last seen wearing a black t-shirt, jeans, and tennis shoes, and also wore glasses for reading. If you have any information about the mysterious disappearance of Jeremiah Foco, you are asked to please contact the Seattle Police Department at 206-625-5011. Gene Johnson. 70-year-old Gene Johnson lived a quiet and peaceful life in Capitan, New Mexico in 2019. 7 years earlier, in 2012, Gene's beloved husband had passed away, and since then, there was a hole in her heart that only one man could ever fill. Gene found it incredibly difficult to move on and wore a pendant filled with his ashes on a necklace close to her heart, as well as wearing her wedding ring. By all accounts, Gene was a loving grandmother, mother, and wife, and devoted her time to playing with her grandchildren and talking to her friends in town. She also enjoyed gardening and taking life at a slow pace. So when Gene mysteriously vanished into thin air and failed to make contact with her daughter Heidi, her family knew something was very wrong. On Sunday, May 26, 2019, Gene was dog sitting for a friend who was out of town, and at some point during the day, Gene snapped a selfie of her and the dog and sent it to her daughter Heidi. Heidi told Dateline, "She sent me a picture of her and the dog relaxing. My mother was my best friend. We were very close. We talked at least 3 times a day." This is the last known contact from Gene, and after this, she mysteriously vanished into thin air. On Monday, the 27th of May, 2019, Heidi attempted to call her mother that evening, but got no answer. In an NBC News report, Heidi tells reporter Andrea Cavalier that she was working all day and her 10-year-old son had a friend over that night, so calling her mother slipped her mind until the evening. Then she tried to call her again on Tuesday, the 28th of May, 2019, but again received no answer. Heidi became concerned that her mother wasn't answering her phone, and the next phone call she received turned her world upside down. The friend that Gene had been dog sitting for called Heidi to let her know that Gene had never dropped the dog off on Monday, the 27th of May, 2019 as planned. This phone call confirmed Heidi's suspicions that something was terribly wrong, and she dropped everything to rush over to her mother's house. She told NBC News, "That's when I panicked. I just felt like something was terribly wrong. I had a bad feeling the entire way." As Heidi pulled up outside of her mother's home, located on Towee Road in Capitan, New Mexico, her stomach sank. The gate into the driveway was locked, and Jean's car was also locked and parked on the driveway. Heidi peered into the car and saw her mother's phone and purse in the car, but there was no sign of her mother. The front door was described as being slightly ajar, but nothing in the home appeared to be out of the ordinary. As Heidi stepped inside, she found the dog that her mother had been dog-sitting. The dog was fine, save for a few accidents it had around the house. Still, there was no sign of Jean. Heidi checked her mother's home, hoping that she would find her somewhere. As she moved throughout the apartment, she noticed that one thing was missing: a .357 caliber pistol that Jean kept in the house for protection. Heidi told investigators that her mother would only use the gun if she was scared. Initially, investigators feared that Jean had used the gun to take her own life. Heidi called the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office shortly after and reported her mother missing, triggering an investigation. In a strange twist, the gun was turned into the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office 2 months later by an unknown person. The Sheriff's Office has not released a description of the person who handed in the gun, and they remain unidentified. The Lincoln County Sheriff's Office said in a statement, "We're not ruling anybody in and we're not ruling anybody out because we don't know yet." Jean's 10-acre property has been extensively searched, but no evidence was found. Heidi did tell investigators that her mother was sometimes forgetful, but had no history of wandering off. 70-year-old Jean Johnson was last heard from on Sunday, May 26, 2019, and her last confirmed whereabouts are at her home on Towee Road in Capitan, New Mexico. Jean is described as a white female with gray and brown hair and green eyes. Jean has had a left mastectomy and her right breast is intact. She also has a previous fracture to one of her big toes and her ears are pierced. We do not know what Jean was wearing on the day of her disappearance, and her general description is listed as 5'6", 130 pounds. Her daughter, Heidi, said that she was possibly wearing a silver wedding band with 3 diamonds and a clear pendant with her husband's ashes inside. If you have any information, you're urged to contact the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office on 800-687-2419, or you can contact Carrizozo Sheriff's Office at 575-648-2342. Abby Flynn, February 2nd, 2020, Super Bowl weekend. A time for celebration, anticipation, and an excuse for friends to get together, drink beer, eat party food, and watch the game together. 59-year-old Abby Flynn of Gloucester, Massachusetts, spent the first half of February 2nd, 2020, preparing to host a Super Bowl party. Abby and her friends were eager to watch the San Francisco 49ers versus the Kansas City Chiefs in the ultimate NFL showdown. But when her friends arrived at her house around 6 p.m., there was no sign of her. Her friends were incredibly confused as everything was set up and ready for the party. The oven was still warm and Abby's phone was laid out on the table. After searching the house and finding no sign of her, her concerned friends called the Gloucester Police Department to report her missing. Ed Conley, the chief of police, said there were indications that she had been at home, that she had prepared for the party, but she was not there. At the time of the party, Abby's husband was in Houston, Texas, and her children were away at college, leaving just Abby in the home. Now, there are conflicting reports surrounding Abby's final movements. Some articles say that she spoke to her son at 2:40 p.m., while some say 4 p.m., and others say yet 4:30 p.m. While we do not have an accurate time, we do know that at some point in the afternoon, Abby did indeed call her son and told him that she was going for a walk. This fact was confirmed by residents who reported seeing Abby at around 4:30 p.m. that day. After this, Abby has never been seen or heard from again. Abby's family told investigators that she was a keen hiker and loved being outdoors. She was experienced and knew how to traverse the landscape around her, making her disappearance all the more mysterious. The investigation began almost right away, with investigators searching long into the night for Abby. According to news reports, detectives, officers, police dogs, and land, sea, and air patrols were sent out to look for Abby, but sadly they found nothing. The Gloucester Police Department believes that Abby had an accident or a medical emergency during her walk. However, no remains have ever been found. 59-year-old Abby Flynn, full name Mary Abby Flynn, is described as a white female with brown hair and brown eyes. She is 5'5" to 5'7" inches tall, weighs between 190 and 210 pounds, and has her ears pierced. She was last seen wearing a navy blue LL Bean puffer jacket, a long-sleeve flannel shirt, blue jeans, and LL Bean boots. LL Bean is a well-known outdoor activity and hiking brand. If you have any information about the mysterious disappearance of Abby Flynn, you're asked to please contact the Gloucester Police Department on 978-283-1212. Or you can contact the Massachusetts State Police at 978-745-8908. Fauna Fry. In June 2020, 45-year-old Fauna Fry was coping with the very recent passing of her brother, Dalla. Fauna's father, John, said that the two siblings were very close, as they were each other's only siblings, and the death of her brother had impacted her deeply. On June 28, 2020, Fauna called her father, John, from a phone at the Super 8 Hotel to check in with him. According to John, Fauna intended to go to Grants Pass, Oregon, from her home in Dexter, Oregon, to visit friends and take a short vacation to help her cope with her grief. While on the phone, John noticed that Fauna sounded disoriented and wasn't acting her usual self. During the phone call, Fauna told her father that she had picked up a hitchhiker near Wilderville, Oregon. John told ABC 13 News, "She talked to me about angels and then about the hitchhiker. It wasn't really like her to pick up hitchhikers, so I knew she was disoriented and very much in grief. She was very upset and distraught." On June 29, 2020, Fauna was spotted at the Umpqua Bank in Rogue River, Oregon, and withdrew $200. There's also apparent CCTV footage showing Fauna leaving the Super 8 Hotel on June 29, 2020, between 8:30 a.m. and 9 a.m. with all of her bags. Inside Edition reported that Fauna had a reservation at the Weasco Inn, but never showed up. On July 5, 2020, John Fry phoned the Josephine County Sheriff's Office and reported his daughter missing, explaining to them that he had last heard from her on June 28. Investigators searched through Fauna's financial records and found that she had used her credit card twice in the days leading up to her disappearance. Once to buy camping equipment, and the second time to buy personal items. As previously mentioned, she also made a reservation for the Weasco Inn with this credit card, but never showed up. After this, no further transactions were made on her credit card. In a post to the Help Find Fauna Fry Facebook group, a person only identified as Jenny posted a list of what Fauna purchased on that day. 8:30 a.m. approximately at Fred Meyer's, $138.28. Socks, VO5 shampoo, Pantene conditioner, 2 Burt's Bees, a deli sandwich, 1 bag of chips, Mac to wear clothing, 2 cans of Foster's beer. Then, at 12:36 p.m., approximately, at Big 5 Sporting Goods, she purchased a 3-pack of palm-held flashlights, lanterns, capris, tennis shoes, and a sports bra. Then at 3:39 p.m. at a store called Gooseberries, she bought 10 packs of tuna, 3 cans of coffee, and 1 smoothie. An investigation was launched by the Josephine County Sheriff's Office with detectives, investigators, and volunteers all working together to help search for Fauna. Investigators believed she may have been camping in the area. However, searches turned up nothing. Then, on September 23, 2020, Fauna's 2000 4-door blue Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo was found on a dead-end spur off Reuben Mountain Road, 6 miles past the Grave Creek boat landing in Josephine County. Fauna's car was locked, and investigators found personal items along with food inside the car. Her car was also processed for evidence, and according to the Oregon State Police, fingerprints and DNA samples were recovered, but these have not been processed. This is because the Oregon State Police have no evidence to suggest that a crime was committed or occurred at the scene, and they are having to prioritize their caseload. The hitchhiker that was with Fauna was extensively questioned and ruled out as a suspect. As this is the case, their name has been withheld from the public. Oregon State Police have no reason to believe that Fauna met with foul play. However, they are still investigating the case. Her father, John Fry, hasn't given up looking for his daughter and explains how he's searched over half the state of Oregon looking for her. On September 30th, the Help Find Fauna Fry Facebook group posted a timeline of events, and it is as follows. 6/27/20. That evening, Fauna drives her Jeep from Dexter, Oregon towards Grants Pass, Oregon. She spends the night in her car at an unknown location. She did not bring any additional clothing. 6/28/20 at 10:08 a.m., Fauna stops at Creswell 76 gas station and makes a $20 purchase. Also on 6/28/20 at 11:40 a.m., Fauna purchased some chicken strips. We believe that she shopped at the Wolf Creek store and bought them there. Also on 6/28/20 at 11:45 a.m., Fauna stopped at a house in Wolf Creek and spent 30 minutes with the people there. These people provided Fauna with an address via Dex to Onion Mountain Road. Again on 6/28/20, time unknown, Fauna picks up a hitchhiker and took her to Fish Hatchery Road. Same day, 7:04 p.m., Fauna visits the Cave Junction Chevron gas station and makes a $25 purchase. 7:45 p.m., Fauna checks into the Super 8 hotel. 8 p.m., Fauna calls her dad John at home. 8:30 p.m., Fauna visits Fred Myers and makes a $138.28 purchase, as discussed previously, before heading back to her hotel room. She's seen wearing a neon green and purple pullover and is shopping alone. 8:35 a.m. on the 29th, video shows Fauna leaving her hotel room at the Super 8 in Grants Pass. 11:44 a.m. that same morning, $200 cash withdrawn from the Umpqua Bank in Rogue River. 12:36 p.m., Big Five purchase of $250.77. 2:35 p.m. on that day, Fauna made a reservation at Weasco Inn. 3:39 p.m., purchase at Gooseberry's Market for $56.61. After this, the timeline stops and there is no more activity on Fauna's credit cards or bank card. 45-year-old Fauna Fry was last seen on June 29, 2020 at the Umpqua Bank in Rogue River, Oregon. She is described as a white female with blonde hair and blue eyes, approximately 5 foot 6 inches tall and between 135 to 150 pounds. Fauna's ears are pierced. She has a tattoo on her back and also wears glasses for driving at night. She was last seen wearing a pink or purple lightweight zip-up jacket, a white or light-colored shirt, black cotton capri leggings, sports bra, underwear, white Champion brand ankle socks, and black, gray, pink, and white tennis shoes. If you have any information about the disappearance of Fauna, you're asked to contact the Josephine County Sheriff's Office at 514-474-5132, or you can leave an anonymous tip at 541-359-5638. There's also an email address that is monitored by the Facebook group, which is findfaunafry@gmail.com. A GoFundMe campaign is currently active to help Fauna's family cover expenses. The link will be listed in the description. Travis Morrow. 40-year-old Travis Morrow was a devoted father of 4. Although some friends have said that he was sometimes a little rough around the edges, one friend told NBC News, "A true friend is real hard to come by, and good dads are real hard to come by, and Travis, he was both." Travis enjoyed rodeos and bull riding and even encouraged his 4 children to do the same, taking joy in seeing his children compete and have a good time. On August 24th, 2014, Travis visited an acquaintance in Enid, Oklahoma. Travis made several texts to friends and family that day, telling them that he was in the Enid and Canton areas of Oklahoma. Travis was last seen at the acquaintance's house, and it is believed that he was headed for Oakwood or Selling, Oklahoma, to visit one of his former girlfriends. However, Travis never showed up at one of his former girlfriend's houses. And the last confirmed movement from Travis is a phone call he placed to one of these girlfriends at around 10 p.m. on August 24th, 2014. After this, Travis has never been seen or heard from again. Later that evening, Travis's Dodge Dakota pickup truck was found near Canton Lake in Dewey County, Oklahoma. His truck had been locked and abandoned, but there was no sign of Travis or his personal belongings anywhere. The Alva Police Department confirmed that there were no signs of a struggle, but they did launch a full-scale search for him. Days of searching by land and air showed no signs of Travis, and in the days after his disappearance, the Alva Police Department requested the involvement of the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation. In a statement to the Enid News-Eagle, Jessica Brown of the OSBI said, "We wouldn't have taken it, probably as a full investigation, did we not believe that foul play could be involved." Many people have speculated that Travis disappeared of his own accord, as at the time of his disappearance he had outstanding warrants for his arrest. His family has heavily disputed these claims, saying that Travis was a devoted father and would not have left of his own accord. 40-year-old Travis Morrow was last seen on August 24th, 2014 in Enid, Oklahoma. He is described as a white male with light brown hair and blue eyes. He also wears glasses. Travis has a 2 to 3 inch scar on his left wrist that extends from the palm to forearm, a scar on his left thigh, and 3 scars on his chest. He has a tattoo of a bull skull with 4 feathers hanging from the horns on his right bicep. It is believed that he was last seen wearing Western-style clothing. Travis stands at 5 foot 9 inches tall and weighs 140 pounds. If you have any information, you're asked to contact the Alva Police Department at 580-327-2121 or the Dewey County Sheriff's Office at 580-328-5558 or the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigations at either 405-848-6724 or toll free at 1-800-522-8017. You can also email them at tips@osbi.ok.gov. Well, friends, there you have it. What do you make of these bizarre disappearances? People just suddenly vanish from the face of the earth with no rhyme or reason, seemingly having made no plans to do so? Curious indeed. I look forward to your comments, but we ask that you please keep it friendly and respectful, especially to the victims' families, and the opinion of others. Be good to yourselves and each other, and I'll see you just a little farther down the trail. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'll talk to you next time. Hello, friends. Welcome to the second installment in our Creepiest Disappearances series. Tonight we bring you 5 more of the most bizarre, strange disappearances we've come across. Sit back, relax, buckle up your seatbelts. It's going to be a wild ride. Number 5, Lynn Palmer. 71-year-old retired nurse Laura Lynn Palmer was an active member in her community in Fall River Mills, California. Lynn had previously worked at the local hospice and was known to many around town for her incredible work. Just because Lynn had retired, it didn't mean that she planned on slowing down. She volunteered at a thrift store to help keep her occupied and maintained a busy social life. In an interview for NBC, Lynn's son, Dave, said she went bowling with friends every Tuesday night, and she was proud that she could go on a 4-mile walk and be fine, as well as a volunteer 4 to 5 times per week. On April 20th, 2018, Lynn spent the day volunteering at the thrift store before returning to her home in the 23,000 block of Castle Fall River Road, an unpopulated but beautiful area, according to her son. Lynn walked through the door at around 4:30 p.m., said hello to her husband Bob, and grabbed a light beer out of the fridge. Lynn left the house once again, but this time to walk the dog, Lucy, that they had been taking care of for a few days. Lucy the dog belonged to Lynn's stepdaughter and Bob's biological daughter, and according to articles, they had been looking after her for a few days while the owner was unavailable. Lynn and Lucy headed southeast from the home and into the woods, and it would be 4 agonizing days until there was any sign of either of them. After 15 minutes had passed and Lynn still hadn't returned home, Bob began to worry. He knew that Lynn's route should have only taken her 15 minutes. Then another 10 minutes passed, and there was still no sign of Lynn or Lucy. Concerned, Bob left the house and began looking for them, but found no sign of them. When 45 minutes had passed, Bob began going door to door and asking neighbors if they had seen the duo. To his horror, no one had. Now in a state of panic, Bob called Lynn's brother-in-law, who's a volunteer firefighter with the Fall River Mills Fire Department, and asked for their assistance in finding Lynn. Her brother-in-law sprung into action and, along with Bob, combed the area for an hour, but to no avail. Realizing that something was very wrong at this point, Bob picked up the phone, dialed 911, and called the Shasta County Sheriff's Department to officially report his wife missing. By this point, Lynn's family had been made aware of her sudden and mysterious disappearance and came from all over the U.S. to help with the search. The local community soon caught wind of Lynn's disappearance, and in a Facebook post, the Sheriff's Department said the Shasta County Search and Rescue was activated and numerous resources were deployed to the area to aid in the search for Ms. Palmer. These resources included dirt riders, mounted posse, ground team, jeepers, and mountain rescue. The Shasta County Sheriff's Office will continue to search for Ms. Palmer throughout the night. For 4 days, the Shasta County and the teams mentioned above searched for Lynn, but there was just no sign of her. Then on the 4th day, April 24th, something miraculous happened. Dave recalled the event in an NBC interview, saying, "Suddenly, the missing dog came back on day 4. They immediately brought her into the house. There was food and water for her, and she went and drank some water, but it was weird because she didn't eat any of the food." Another day passed, and sadly the search was officially called off after there was no evidence found. Lynn's family weren't giving up that easily and brought in the Mendocino County Sniffer Dog Unit to see if their dogs would be able to shed some light on her mysterious disappearance. According to Dave, Lynn's son, the dog tracked her scent along her main walking route out to an abandoned trailer, then to a dirt road, and then out to the main road. The scent disappeared at the main road. Since Lynn's mysterious disappearance in April 2018, her family have continued their search for her. A month after she went missing, the Shasta County Sheriff's Office said that she was considered missing under suspicious circumstances, and her case has remained open ever since. Now, in the months before her disappearance, Lynn had begun showing signs of dementia, and her son Dave said there were just some things she would have to repeat or things she would not remember. Her family maintains that she couldn't have gotten lost on her walk due to the confusion, as it was a route she walked often and only started to forget the little things. Plus, the dog knew the route as well. Lynn's family are desperate for answers and are offering a $5,000 reward for any information that leads to her whereabouts. Dave is adamant that his mother did not leave of her own accord, telling NBC, "There's one thing I do know. She didn't take off on her own will. So her body is still out there, and the dog stayed until she passed away, and we just haven't found her body yet. Or someone took her, and either they took the dog with her, or the dog followed them and then came back. They could have disposed of her, or the rare case is that they still have her." Laura Lynn Palmer was last seen on April 20th, 2018. She is described as a white female with brown hair and brown eyes. Both of her ears are pierced, and she has an appendectomy scar on her abdomen. Lynn was last seen wearing a t-shirt, blue jeans, tennis shoes, and earrings, and was possibly carrying a can of light beer, and was wearing her glasses that have thick lenses. If you have any information, you're urged to contact the Shasta County Sheriff's Department at 530-245-6540. If you wish to remain anonymous, you can contact the Secret Witness Program at 530-243-2319, and you can submit an anonymous tip online at the NorCal Alliance for the Missing. The link for this will be provided in the description. Number 4, Stacy Smart. 52-year-old Stacy Smart was reported missing by her daughter, Nicole Santos Haman, on November 2nd, 2016, after nobody had heard from her for a while. On that same day, if you'll recall, Sherry Papini also mysteriously disappeared, only to be found alive weeks later. Papini's case garnered international media attention, while Stacy's case has been largely overshadowed and forgotten about. But here at Missing Persons and Mysteries, we want to make sure that we give Stacy's case as much exposure as possible and extend our condolences to her family and pray that they find closure soon. The details in Stacy's case are few and far between. Nicole, Stacy's daughter, says that she last spoke to her mother on October 12, 2016, and knew that she was going to a housewarming party in Lewiston, California on October 15, 2016. By October 16th, all activity on Stacy's bank cards had stopped, and as Halloween rolled around, she failed to make contact with her family, which was extremely out of character. Her daughter also told Crime Watch Daily that Stacy's landline had been disconnected, which deeply concerned the family. At the time of her disappearance, Stacy was living with her boyfriend, Tony Brand, and Brand has never commented on why he didn't report his girlfriend missing or make contact with her family if he knew she was okay in the interim period before she was reported missing. Stacy's daughter, Nicole, told news media that a month before her mother mysteriously disappeared, she'd called her grandmother in tears, saying that Brand had been cheating on her and that the two had gotten into an argument. Stacy later followed up with her family, claiming that the two had made up. But then, a month later, she vanished. Investigators are keeping very tight-lipped about the investigation into Stacy's disappearance, and although her case was featured on an episode of Crime Watch Daily, few leads have surfaced. One interesting thing to note about this episode, which is available to watch on YouTube, is that Brand spoke with the producers of the show but refused to be on camera, instead opting to just give a statement. Now, this is in no way saying that he's guilty, but it is an important thing to note. The statement provided by Brand, read by his lawyer, Douglas Gardner, said, Tony was in a loving, intimate relationship with Stacy, which ended with as much mystery to him as anyone else. He has fully cooperated with the investigators in this case and is afraid for Stacy as any of her other loved ones. Law enforcement confirmed that Brand had been cooperative during their initial investigation, but requested that his lawyer, Douglas Gardner, be present when he took a lie detector test. The results of these tests have never been made public, and we probably shouldn't put too much weight or validity into those results anyway. After all, there is a reason that lie detector tests aren't admissible in most courts across the world. A KRCR article written in November 2019, 3 years after Stacy's mysterious disappearance, mentions Angie Forsland, a search manager who was hired by Stacy's family following her disappearance. The article reads, Angie Forsland, the search manager hired by the Smart family to find Stacy, told KRCR in an interview in 2016 she believes he's a suspect in her disappearance. According to Forsland and the family, Smart's boyfriend changed the carpet in his home near Lewiston Lake after Smart was reported missing. He also told the family she had moved out. Stacy Smart last made contact with her family on October 12, 2016, and has not been seen or heard from since. Investigators have not stated where they believe she has met with foul play, and the investigation is currently ongoing. Stacy Smart is described as a white female with blonde hair and blue eyes. At the time of her disappearance, her hair was platinum blonde and in a pixie-style cut. Stacy also has a tattoo of a red lotus bloom on her lower back and likes to wear hats. Stacy's family are desperate for answers and have teamed up with the Secret Witness Program to offer a $10,000 reward for any information that leads to her. Her family's also set up a GoFundMe. If you have any information, You're urged to contact either the Trinity County Sheriff's Department on 530-623-3740 or the Secret Witness Program on 530-243-2319. Number 3, Aaron Marie Gilbert. 24-year-old Aaron Marie Gilbert had the world at her feet, and her family described her as a smart and responsible young woman who was athletic but also knew how to glam it up. Aaron loved playing basketball, and being 6 foot tall, she was perfect for the sport. Her family commented that she was always happy, someone who was looking forward to all of her tomorrows. But sadly, Aaron's seemingly endless supplies of tomorrow were cut short, and she has been officially listed as a missing person since July 1st, 1995. In 1994, Aaron moved from her native San Francisco, California, and Everett, Washington, to Anchorage, Alaska. Aaron had gotten herself a job as a nanny, and by 1995 she was living with her sister, Stephanie, and had enrolled herself in beauty school, which was due to start in the autumn of 1995. When asked about the drastic move from the mainland USA to Alaska, her sister Stephanie told NBC News, "My husband traveled a lot for work, and I was alone so much of the time, so I told Aaron she should come and stay with me in Alaska." She'd been living in San Francisco with her dad. Since the day that she arrived in Anchorage, Aaron turned many heads, and her friends and family described her as a beautiful young woman. On June 30th, 1995, while out and about, Aaron met a man named David Combs at a bar called Chilkoot Charlie's, and the pair immediately hit it off. The two had so much in common and so much chemistry that they agreed to meet the next day on July 1st, 1995, for a proper date. July 1st rolled around, and David picked up Aaron and drove them out to the Girdwood Forest Fair in Girdwood, Alaska. The two walked around the fair, and witnesses recall seeing Aaron and David at a beer garden just before 6 p.m. The two left the beer garden and made their way over to David's car, but it wouldn't start. David had left the car lights on while they were at the fair, which had completely drained his battery. David turned to Aaron and told her that he would walk to his friend's house, which was nearby, and ask him to come and help him out. He then explained to the investigators that he walked around Girdwood and the surrounding area for 2 hours before realizing he couldn't find his friend's house. When David realized he couldn't find this house as initially planned, he made his way back to the fairground. As he walked toward his car, his heart sank. There was no sign of Aaron anywhere. In a rash decision, he tried his car one more time, and amazingly, this time the engine turned over and it started. Knowing that something still wasn't right, he traversed around the fair until 1 a.m. looking for his date before heading home. According to Aaron's family, David didn't tell them she was missing until 7 a.m. the next morning on July 2nd, 1995. Stephanie told NBC News, "He didn't tell anyone she was missing until he called me around 7 a.m. the next morning. He said he called to make sure Aaron made it home okay. He was very casual about it." As Stephanie peered into Aaron's room and saw that it was empty, her heart immediately sank into her stomach. She too sensed that something was wrong, so she called the rest of the family and they drove to the fairground to conduct their own search. Aaron's family combed the fairground and the surrounding woods and even had Aaron's name broadcasted from the stage, akin to something you'd see when a child wanders off from their parents. But Aaron never appeared from the woods, and soon the Alaska State Troopers became involved, and an official missing persons case was opened. With the use of search dogs and helicopters, the troopers began covering the surrounding area looking for Aaron, but it was as if she had simply vanished into thin air. The state troopers have stressed Aaron's case is a missing person case and not a homicide investigation at this time. David Combs, the man that Aaron was last seen with on July 1st, 1995, has been cleared as a suspect, and the authorities claim that he has been cooperative throughout the entire ordeal. Aaron Marie Gilbert was last seen on July 1st, 1995, at the Girdwood Forest Fair in Girdwood, Alaska. She's described as a white female with brown hair and brown eyes. She has a tattoo of a large blue flower on her chest, and at the time of her disappearance, her hair was cut short into a bob. Aaron is around 6 feet tall and weighs about 145 pounds. She was last seen wearing a black leather jacket, a black and white striped shirt, black jeans, and brown mountain boots. May 4th of 2021 would have been Aaron's 50th birthday, and her family are desperate for answers. There's currently a $30,000 reward for information, and Stephanie, her sister, runs the Facebook page called Finding Aaron Marie Gilbert. If you have any information, you're urged to contact the Alaska State Troopers on 907-428-7200 or 907-269-5497. Number 2, Steven Kraft. February 15th, 2021. Residents of Benton Township, Michigan, and beyond huddled together in the crisp air to hold a vigil to mark the 20th anniversary of Stephen Earl Kraft II's disappearance in 2001. Fred Kralzik, who lives on Holly Street, the same street that 12-year-old Stephen disappeared from, told WNDU, "I would hope that if someone did know something out there, that they would say something. Hopefully, somehow he returns. If not, well, and if he's not here with us anymore, then all I know is his family will see him in heaven if he's not here anymore. Nobody really knows that for sure." On February 15th, 2001, 12-year-old Stephen Kraft left his home on the dead-end street named Holly Street to play with the two family dogs, and witnesses recall seeing him on the 2100 block of Holly Drive between 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. that night. Stephen happily played outside and had promised his parents that he would be back home in time for supper, but Stephen never came through the door. According to Chief Smith of the Benton Township Police Department, Stephen's mother called police in the early morning hours of the 16th of February. Our protocol was typical. We went out and took the report, and since it was someone that young of an age, we gathered information. Who last saw him? Sometimes kids do run away, but he hadn't run away before. In the days leading up to his disappearance, Stephen had been suspended from Hull Elementary School for 5 days after he defended himself during a scuffle with another student. Both the headmaster and Stephen's parents said that this behavior was very out of character for him, and that he was usually a quiet, well-behaved student who kept his head down. After Stephen had been reported missing, a wide-scale search began for him, and this search was spurred by a sense of urgency, not just because of his age, but because the temperature had dropped well below freezing, and Stephen wasn't wearing a hat or gloves. Police, Stephen's family, and the local community combed the area looking for any sign of the 12-year-old and caught a break when they discovered Stephen's icy footsteps walking over a frozen pond near his home on Holly Street. According to the Charlie Project, these footsteps led in the direction of Harbor Haven Ministries on Irving Street, which is approximately 1 block away from Holly Street where Stephen lived. After this, it appears that the trail goes cold, and investigators commented that the weather, combined with his young age, made it difficult for them. On February 18, 2001, the familiar pitter-patter of feet was heard at the Kraft residence. Outside stood the older dog, a German Shepherd Chow mix, but there was no sign of Stephen or the other dog. The dog hastily led Stephen's parents and investigators to a pond, but according to official reports, nothing was found. The day after that, on February 19, 2001, the family's other dog, a 6-month-old German Shepherd puppy, was found 1.5 miles away from Holly Street. How had a 6-month-old puppy managed to survive the freezing temperatures and travel over 1.5 miles away? Could this possibly be an indication that someone took Stephen and the dogs, only to let them loose because they were making too much noise or to throw off the investigation? Throughout the years, multiple searches have been performed for Stephen. In 2001, authorities searched Blue Creek and the pond near Harbor Haven Ministries, but found nothing. In 2002, a search was conducted in a wooded area near the Southwestern Michigan Regional Airport, but again, no trace of Stephen could be found. There was a reported sighting of Stephen in 2004, where a witness called the FBI believing that a young man matching Stephen's description was at the Midway Airport in Chicago. This sighting, unfortunately, turned out to be a case of mistaken identity, and since then the case has remained cold. With such little evidence, all we are left with are theories. The Benton Township Police Department has said that they investigated the idea that Steven ran away from home as well as the idea that he was abducted. It does seem very unlikely, though, that Steven ran away, especially on a cold February evening when he promised his parents he would be home in time for supper. The FBI stated in their report that Steven was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and has ties there, as well as Lexington, Kentucky. It's also possible that Steven died due to exposure or an accident on that evening, but without a body or evidence, all we can do is speculate. Steven's family have never given up hope and are asking for the public's assistance in his case. Stephen Earl Craft II, also listed sometimes as Stephen Earl Craft Jr., was last seen on February 15, 2001, in the 2100 block of Holly Drive in Benton Harbor, Michigan. Stephen is described as a white male with light brown hair and green eyes. He has a small red birthmark on his left rib. At the time he went missing, he was around 5'1" to 5'2" inches tall and around 100 pounds. Stephen was last seen wearing a white, tan, and brown striped shirt, tan parachute pants, an aqua and purple Charlotte Hornets jacket, and black lugs boots. If still alive today, Stephen would be 32 years old. Anyone with any information is urged to contact the Benton Township Police Department at 269-926-8221 and listen for the extension for Stephen's tip line. Alternatively, you can contact the FBI's St. Joseph, Michigan office on 313-965-2323. Number 1, Shannon Boiteau. We will always love you, no matter what. We will support you and help you. Just come home and we'll face everything together. We want you back home with us and to be a mother to your beautiful daughter. At the very least, call and let us know you're okay. So reads a message from the father of missing 22-year-old Shannon Boiteau. Her family describe her as a devoted mother and loving daughter, and are desperate for answers as to what happened on that June day in 2016. On that day, Shannon left her home in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, and left a note for her parents, telling them that she was going to be sent back to prison and needed to sort out a few things beforehand. The note also stated that she and her boyfriend were on their way to California so she could see the ocean. As far as we know, Shannon hopped into the car with her boyfriend and they began their trip from Wisconsin to California. Google Maps shows the two most common routes to California. The first route, and the route that Shannon and her boyfriend are assumed to have taken, drives through Minneapolis, Minnesota, South Dakota, Wyoming, Utah, Nevada, and then into California. The second most likely route goes through southern Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska, Colorado, Utah, Nevada, and then into California. This route will become important later on. According to Shannon's family, her childhood had been normal, and the trouble didn't start until she transitioned into her teenage years, when she began taking drugs and exhibiting signs of behavioral problems, and that's when things started to go downhill. That was until 2014, when she found out she was pregnant. This shock announcement spurred her on, and she got on a path to sobriety and eventually got clean. Sadly, this sobriety only lasted for a little while, and shortly after, she began using drugs again and was sent to prison on drug charges. Shannon was released on probation and ordered to serve house arrest following the birth of her daughter, which she completed without incident, according to her father. Naturally, after being under house arrest, Shannon was put on parole and assigned a parole officer. According to the Charlie Project, Shannon had been caught drinking in June 2016 and had an outstanding warrant against her for parole violations. Shannon knew that the parole violation meant that she would likely be back behind bars, leading her to leave the note for her parents and take care of business before she found herself back in an orange jumpsuit. The details in Shannon's case became somewhat confusing from here on out. According to some reports, Shannon was last seen near Interstate 94 and County Road 74 in St. Cloud, Minnesota on June 22, 2016. Now, as per Google Maps, the two routes to California drive through or close to Minneapolis and then down either into South Dakota or Iowa. What is really odd about this, though, is that St. Cloud, Minnesota is 65 miles north of Minneapolis and is completely off route. There may be another route to California that would take you through or near this area, but no one knows why they might have taken this route. This is just a minor point found while researching that we wanted to bring up. Witnesses reported seeing Shannon and her boyfriend arguing in the car around 3 p.m. And in the heat of the argument, Shannon got out of the car and stormed off into the woods around the highway. It is unclear what Shannon and her boyfriend were arguing about, but her family did tell investigators that she was known to hitchhike, and it is possible that she jumped into someone else's car to try and get to California. Another bizarre fact in Shannon's case is the fact that she apparently left home without her bag and didn't own a cell phone at the time. It's unclear on how the couple were planning on funding that trip to California and whether Shannon's boyfriend was going to pick up the tab. Shannon has no connections to St. Cloud, Minnesota, and her family are now asking for the public's help. Shannon Boito was last seen in St. Cloud, Minnesota on June 22, 2016, as we mentioned, near Interstate 94 and County Road 74. She is described as a white female with brown hair and brown eyes, and has a tattoo of 2 sparrows on her hips and a tattoo of the name Millie with no E behind her right ear. Shannon also has a lip and belly button piercing and has stretched earlobes. Her Charlie Project profile reads, Boito has a history of drug abuse. Caution is advised when approaching her. She was last seen wearing a tan Victoria's Secret tank top with the word pink on it, black leggings, and no shoes. Foul play is not suspected at this time in her case, and if you have any information regarding her whereabouts, you're asked to please contact the Chippewa Falls Police Department at 715-723-4424. Well, friends, there you have it. What do you make of these 5 strange and creepy disappearances? Somewhere, somebody knows something. People don't just vanish into thin air. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to reading your comments. But please, keep it friendly and respectful. In the meantime, be good to yourselves and each other, and I'll see you just a little farther on down the trail. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'll talk to you next time. Hello, friends. Today, bringing you part 3 of our unbelievably bizarre and creepy disappearances series. These are some of the strangest disappearances we've come across in all our research. Now let's begin. Number 5, Chance Engelbert. 25-year-old Chance Engelbert was last seen leaving the 700 block of O Street in Gehring, Nebraska at around 7:30 p.m. on Saturday, July 6, 2019. Chance, his wife Bailey, and their son Banks, who lived in Wyoming, had spent the sunny Saturday visiting Bailey's family, with articles reporting that they spent the day golfing. Chance had recently accepted a new job with a propane company after he had recently been laid off from his previous job at a coal mine. Bailey's family didn't seem to like this job move. Chance, his father-in-law, and other members of Bailey's family all began arguing. Bailey drove over to pick Chance up before heading to her grandparents' house to collect a few things. During the car ride, Chance became upset again and asked Bailey to drive him home, to which she said no. Chance then called up one of his friends for a ride home. Sadly for Chance, the friend wasn't able to help, so Chance left the 700 block of O Street and began the walk towards Torrington, Wyoming. According to Google Maps, if Chance was planning to walk the whole way, it would have taken him close to 12 hours on foot. There were 2 routes he could have taken if he was in a car, both ending up on the US 26W and taking around 43 minutes. Bailey told investigators that she last spoke to Chance on the phone at 7:46 p.m., and he told her that he was walking south. Whereas friends told investigators that they had spoken to Chance around the same time, and he told them he was headed north towards Torrington, Wyoming. At 9:08 p.m., Chance's phone sent a final text that was just a string of emojis and numbers. Chance's mother, Dawn, said that Chance never used emojis and speculates that the text was sent by someone else. At 9 p.m. that evening, a large thunderstorm rolled through the area, and Bailey and her family assumed that Chance had found shelter somewhere and would be in contact with him soon. Bailey's grandfather went out looking for Chance, but found no sign of the man. Bailey told NBC News, "I still wasn't that worried. I figured he'd come slinking in late that night, but he didn't. And when I woke up the next morning and he wasn't there, I knew it was bad." Chance's friends and family tried desperately to contact him, but his phone had been turned off shortly after 9:08 p.m. when he had sent the cryptic text message. Realizing that something was wrong, Chance's family called the police and officially reported him missing. Investigators discovered that Chance's phone had last pinged off a tower on County Road 19 near Scottsbluff, Nebraska. They also found CCTV footage showing Chance walking alone along the intersection of Terry Boulevard and Stable Club Road. After this sighting, he mysteriously vanished. Once Chance had been reported missing, the Gering Police Department sprung into action and called in the help of 18 agencies, including drones, divers, dogs, horseback riders, and 147 volunteers who managed to cover 2,400 acres on foot. The Nebraska State Patrol helicopter team and Airlink managed to cover a combined 380 miles during the search effort, but no sign of Chance could be found. Authorities were concerned for his well-being, as the rains on the evening that Chance disappeared were described as heavy and cold, in addition to the dangers of lightning. It was also postulated that Chance may have fallen into a river or stream, or suffered from hypothermia due to the weather conditions. Since that July day, Chance Engelbert has never been seen or heard from again, and his family are desperate for answers. His mother made a plea to Chance, saying, "Please call somebody. You don't have to come home. We just want to know that you're safe. Our heart aches every day, every night." In the wake of Chance's disappearance, his mother, Dawn, created the Help Find Chase Engelbert Facebook page that she uses to keep his case alive, as well as to post updates. In early November 2021, an arm bone and shirt were found near Melbetta, Nebraska, which is 8.5 miles south of where Chance was last seen. It has not yet been confirmed whether these belong to Chance, and DNA testing is currently underway. In a Facebook post on November 2nd, 2021, Chance's mother, Dawn, wrote, "We'd like to take a moment to thank you all for prayers, calls, and messages. We're aware of the news releases of remains found in Scottsbluff County and have talked with officials. Until the DNA is released, there is not a 100% answer. Depends on the lab's workload, and it could take weeks for those answers. So for now, please give our family a little extra prayers. Thank you." Time will tell whether these remains belong to Chase or where the family will have to keep on fighting for answers. 25-year-old Chase Engelbert was last seen on the 700 block of O Street in Gering, Nebraska. According to reports, he was either walking southbound or north, with his final destination being Torrington, Wyoming. He is described as a white male with brown hair and blue eyes. He has a scar on his hip and is 5'11", 195 pounds. Chance was last seen wearing a short-sleeved button-down Wrangler shirt, blue Wrangler jeans, a belt with an NRCA buckle, Roper boots, and a black and white trucker hat. If you have any information, you're urged to contact the Gering Police Department on 308-436-5088. Number 4, Sonny Shramik. 18-year-old Sonny Shramik left her home in Trenton, Nebraska on April 20th, 2019, and told her mother, Paula Johnson, that she was going on a road trip with a male acquaintance. This person was not named in publications. However, a member of Sonny's family named him as 42-year-old Floyd Clifford Coates, who goes by Cliff. The nature of their relationship is currently unknown. Sonny is married, however. The identity of Sonny's husband has been withheld from the public, and her parents have not discussed this detail at length. One article notes, her parents say she married young, believing it was a good choice, but went through more growing and trying to do things right, so is currently living with her mother Paula to sort things out. Paula watched her daughter get into the 2004 white Ford Explorer with Iowa license plate HGJ 341, and then watched as her daughter and the unknown man drove away. Little did Paula know that this would be the last time she would ever see her daughter, who she described as bright and artistic. At around 1 p.m. on April 20th, 2019, Sonny called her mom, Paula, to let her know that everything was going well and that they were possibly headed for Omaha, Nebraska. The pair talked, and Sonny told Paula that she was in Holdridge, Nebraska, and that everything was good. A KSMB local article states that Sonny had called using a borrowed phone because she left hers at home before embarking on the trip. On the evening of April 20th, 2019, Paula received a horrific phone call. On the other end of the line was Cliff Coates, who said that he had gone into the Prairie Flower Casino in Carter Lake, Iowa, and that when he stepped outside, Sonny was gone. NBC reported that Paula had written on the GoFundMe page that he said he had looked for her, couldn't find her, so he left. He left the area without Sonny. No call to the police, no nothing. At one point, his story changed. They stopped at a gas station in Omaha, and he went in to pay for the gas. When he returned to the vehicle, Sonny was gone. On April 21st, 2019, when Sonny had still failed to make contact with her parents, Paula and Jody, she was officially reported missing and an investigation was opened. An extensive search in Nebraska and Iowa took place, but there was no sign of Sonny. Because she was 18, she was too old for an Amber Alert, but the authorities still did the best they could to publicize Sonny's case. Hours turned to days, and Sonny's family became more and more desperate as each hour passed. Soon after she was reported missing, the FBI became involved in Sonny's case and are now asking for anyone with information to please come forward. Sonny's family are also heavily involved in the search for their missing loved one. Her cousin, Rennie Blom, created the Find Sonny Shramik Facebook page and regularly hands out flyers and leaflets across Nebraska. Interestingly enough, Cliff Coates has an extensive criminal history, and this is something that we couldn't pass up on mentioning. Heavy.com wrote an article about Sonny's case and managed to dig up all of Cliff's prior convictions. Turns out that he has a criminal record in Kansas, Iowa, and Nebraska. In Kansas, he was charged for drug offenses and attempting to evade police. His prison record isn't squeaky clean either, having 25 write-ups for battery, lying, disrespect of an officer, disobeying orders, and having sexually explicit material. Cliff's criminal history doesn't stop there. In Nebraska, he was convicted of false imprisonment, distribution of methamphetamine, possession of a deadly weapon, carrying a concealed weapon, assault by a confined person, theft by receiving stolen property, and possession of marijuana. On June 10, 2019, Remy Blom posted again to the Facebook page Find Sonny Shramik, saying, "I have a little info to share from my aunt. Here's the update. Coates was arrested recently, but was bonded soon after. I'm hoping that they can learn something, anything from him. At least he was found. I'm sharing this so y'all are aware, but as far as what happened prior to this or what he was arrested for, that is not being shared by the family." Investigators haven't publicly named Cliff as a suspect in Sonny's case, and despite all these leads and all this information, her case has sadly gone cold. Sonny's family are desperately seeking answers for what happened to her. She was in the process of finishing high school, and it's extremely out of character for her to just have wandered off. Sonny is described as a white female with brown hair and blue eyes. She's 5'7" tall, 180 pounds, and has numerous distinguishing features, which are as follows. Sonny has a tattoo on her left shoulder of a feather with the letters FLY, a tattoo of a red tribal sun on her right ankle. She also has a rectangular scar on the back of her right shoulder, a small square-shaped scar in the middle of her upper forehead, scarring on one of her ankles and shin, scars from chickenpox on her face, a scar on her left hand at the bottom of her thumb and first finger, and assorted cuts on her arm. Sonny was last seen wearing denim shorts and a black vest top, but her mother, Paula, told investigators that she was carrying a pair of jeans and a hoodie when she went missing. If you have any information, you're urged to please contact the FBI's Omaha Division Field Office on 402-493-8688. Alternatively, if you wish to remain anonymous, you can contact the Nebraska State Crime Stoppers on 1-800-422-1494. Number 3, Matthew Weaver Jr. 21-year-old Matthew Weaver Jr. was in a transitional period in his life. He had just moved into his own apartment in Granada Hills, California, to be closer to his job, and he had recently broken up with his long-term girlfriend. The breakup affected Matthew, but as he had moved to a new area, he slowly began building up a new circle of friends and was back out there partying and hanging out. On August 9th, 2018, Matthew spent the day working before going to hang out with a new female friend that he had made. According to his father, Matthew Weaver Sr., Matthew Jr. appeared excited at the prospect of hanging out with his new friend and said that nothing seemed out of the ordinary. According to NBC, the pair hung out until the early morning hours of August 10th, with Matthew Jr. dropping the woman off at her place around 4:30 a.m. From there, Matthew Jr. sent a text to his friend saying, "Something crazy has happened," also adding, "I want to talk while I have the chance." Matthew Jr. also sent text to his ex-stepmother, Brooke. The two remained close friends even when Matthew Jr.'s father and she divorced, as she had raised him from a young age. Brooke claims that some of the texts were jumbled and didn't make much sense at all. At around 11:30 a.m., Matthew Jr. then calls the woman he was hanging out with the night before, but she doesn't answer because she's at work. She texts him asking what's wrong and telling him that she is unable to answer right now. Matthew never replied to the text from Brooke or the unknown woman, and since then, he has mysteriously fallen off the map. Brooke told NBC that Matthew's phone is still linked to his ex-girlfriend's account, so they were able to retrieve phone records relatively quickly. These records showed that Matthew Jr.'s location at the time of sending those texts was the Las Rosas Overlook near Stunt and Saddle Peak Roads in the Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area. This was later confirmed when CCTV cameras in the area captured Matthew Jr.'s BMW driving along the road to Las Rosas Overlook. When Brooke hadn't received a reply from her stepson, she began to worry. She began calling all of his friends to see if they had heard from him, but to her horror, no one had. Unbeknownst to Brooke and Matthew Sr., the California Highway Patrol discovered Matthew Jr.'s car abandoned on the Topanga Tower motorway, close to the Las Rosas Overlook. They traced the car's registration and found that it belonged to Matthew Weaver Jr. After speaking with his family, they realized that he had not made contact with him since August 11th. Subsequently, a missing person report was filed, and Matthew Weaver Jr. was officially listed as a missing person. Multiple searches have been conducted by multiple agencies, but no trace of Matthew has ever been found. Brooke told NBC, "There is no way that kid just fell off the grid and disappeared. For me, that's not possible. I'm super close with Matthew. He tells me everything. He calls me anytime he's in a bind. He would never let his little sibling sit there and think he might be dead." Then, in January 2019, hikers discovered Matthew Jr.'s car keys just 25 meters from where his car had been discovered. It's unknown whether these keys were overlooked during the initial search or whether they had been intentionally placed there at a later date. While out conducting his own search for his son, Matthew Sr. discovered shreds of a white T-shirt that he believes his son was wearing on the day he disappeared. A red Los Angeles Angels hat was also found, which Matthew Sr. also said belonged to his son. The Los Angeles Police Department's Missing Persons Unit has since taken over Matthew's case. Matthew Weaver Jr. is described as a white male with brown hair and brown eyes. He's 5'9" tall and weighs 165 pounds. Matthew Jr. has a tattoo of the name Jeremiah on the left side of his chest. Some of Matthew Jr.'s friends say that he sustained a head injury in the days before his disappearance, and that he may be concussed or have other behavior issues arising from this. Matthew Jr. was last seen wearing a plain black or white T-shirt, black Dickies pants, red shoes, and a Los Angeles Angels baseball cap. If you have any information, you're urged to please contact the Los Angeles Police Department's Missing Persons Unit on 213-996-1800. If you wish to remain anonymous, you can leave a tip with the LA Regional Crime Stoppers on 1-800-222-TIPS. Number 2, Erica Thompson. 53-year-old Erica Thompson had recently broken up from a 2-year relationship and was now living alone with her cats in her Brookfield, Illinois home. Erica's sister, Dana, said that the pair regularly kept in contact with each other and that Erica always kept in contact with her family. So, when Erica failed to show up for work on September 26, 2019, her co-workers noted that it was extremely out of character. Dana recalled that she had last spoken with her sister via email on September 23, 2019. Erica was captured on CCTV on September 25, 2019, making a deposit at a bank. She has not been seen or heard from since. Days passed, and Erica's family became more and more concerned when she didn't contact them. Finally, on October 1, 2019, Erica's son, Michael Russo, went to her Brookfield, Illinois home to see what was going on. Some reports state that Michael entered the house, while others state that the Brookfield Police Department were the ones who actually entered the home. Whoever entered the home found that the back door was open and that the air conditioning was running full blast. There were dirty, moldy dishes in the sink and cat vomit all over the house, something that Erica would never have tolerated. Her sister Dana told Dateline, "It was cause for concern because my sister would never have left a mess. She would have washed her dishes and taken care of her cats." Investigators also found, interestingly enough, that recent CCTV footage from Erica's home security cameras had been deleted, only adding to their suspicions. Erica's phone, bag, driver's license, house keys, and car keys, along with her 2014 dark purple Nissan Juke, Illinois plate E273380, were missing from the home, but her cats had been left behind. It's been said that Erica absolutely cherished her cats, and if she'd planned on leaving, she would have taken them with her. As Erica's phone was missing, investigators tracked it as far as they could and found that she had traveled through Brookfield, Decatur, and Mount Vermont on September 26, 2019. In addition to this, the phone had also pinged in Countryside, Hodgkins, McCook, Forest View, Summit, and Ridgeview. On October 2, 2019, her phone was found dumped in a ditch in Springfield, Missouri, some 502 miles away from her home in Brookfield, Illinois. Her sister, Dana, wrote a Facebook post on November 8, 2019. It's a long post, so we'll just summarize the key parts. They've searched the forest preserves, impound lots, and truck yards in the previous town mentioned for her car, assuming that they're leaving no stone unturned. Assuring me that they're leaving no stone unturned. Her info and her car info are listed in a system that law enforcement uses, meaning if her car has been left somewhere, the plates and/or VIN will alert them that she's been reported missing. If tolls have been passed through or tow trucks come upon it, etc., an alert will pop up. We've registered her with NamUs, number MP61151. NamUs, number MP61151. Clear Channel has donated their billboard space openings to show her picture and where to call. I can't even express how grateful we are to them. Please keep Erica and us in your thoughts until we can bring her home. 53-year-old Erica Thompson was last seen on October 25, 2019, and is described as a white female with blonde hair and blue eyes. Her natural hair color is brown, and her ears are double pierced. She has a tattoo of a blue heart on the top of her foot and a tattoo of fairies on her hip. There is currently a $1,000 reward for information, and anyone with any information at all is urged to contact the Brookfield Police Department on 708-244-4862 or Cook County Crime Stoppers on 1-800-535-STOP. Number 1, Glenda Peterson. The details of Glenda Peterson's 1997 disappearance are few and far between, and with the passage of time, those details become harder and harder to come by. On July 4th, 1997, 40-year-old Glenda Jean Peterson spent the day celebrating at Lake Thunderbird in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, with her 16-year-old daughter. Glenda had just been through a rough divorce from her husband of 15 years, and she was doing everything she could to make the 4th of July a fun family day for her daughter. At the time, Glenda had her right leg in a cast due to a break, but didn't let her injury dampen her spirits. Glenda and her daughter spent the day together before accepting a ride home from a man that they had met that day. Witnesses corroborated this story, saying that they saw the pair get into the man's dark-colored pickup truck and drive away. Witnesses described the man as being white, in his 40s, 6 feet tall, 180 pounds, with brown hair and a mustache. Then, somewhere along Highway 9, the unknown man pulled over at Glenda's request. Glenda handed her bag to her daughter, got out of the car, and was never seen or heard from again. This is about as much information as we have in Glenda's case, Glenda's niece Brandy told Dateline. Did she know she was in danger, so she just wanted to keep her daughter safe? There are so many holes in the story, we just don't know. Glenda's mysterious disappearance is one of those cases where we are simply left with more questions than answers. Multiple searches have been conducted by the Norman Police Department, and cadaver dogs were even called in, but nothing has ever been found. Each year, Glenda's children watch other families celebrating July 4th, hoping and praying that one day their mother will come home so they can do the same once again. Glenda Jean Peterson was last seen on the side of Highway 9 on July 4th, 1997. She is described as a white female with black hair and brown eyes, although the photographs provided of her show her with blonde hair. Glenda has a tattoo of the letter G on her left forearm, a letter B on her left hand, an artificial jaw, and a scar on her neck. At the time of her disappearance, Glenda's right leg was broken and was in a cast. The Charlie Project notes that Glenda goes with the nicknames Blondie and Sunshine, and may use the surnames Adams, Kernet, Darley, and Deal. Anyone with any information is urged to contact the Norman Police Department on 405-366-5211. Well, friends, there you have it. What do you think of these strange disappearances? I look forward to hearing your comments, but please keep it friendly and respectful. If you'd like to see more videos like this, check out the playlist that we have here on our channel. These playlists showcase our best content and videos that many of you may have never seen before. So check them out, see what you might have missed out. Till we meet again, be good to yourselves and each other. Stay safe out there. As for me, I'll see you a little further on down the trail. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'll talk to you next time. Hello, friends. Steve Stockton here with you. Welcome to our latest video. This offering is number 4 in our Creepy Cases series. Now, while many of the cases we cover on the channel have at least some strange or weird elements to them, these are some hand-picked cases that we feel to be amongst the creepiest. Join us. First up, Marina Bolter. 18-year-old Marina Bolter was doing everything within her power to get her life back on track in 2014. She had recently graduated high school by obtaining her GED and had plans to go to college to study to become a pastry chef. Things hadn't always been easy for Marina, though, and in early 2014, when she was just 17 years old, she found out that she was pregnant with her first child. At the time, Marina was in an on-off relationship with DJ Lockhart, and the two did their best to make the relationship work, although this wasn't always possible. When Marina's newborn son was just 4 months old, he was taken into care after an altercation saw the baby receive a head injury. According to reports, Marina's son was struck when Faith, Marina's sister, and Faith's boyfriend were arguing and fighting in their Bloomfield, Indiana home. This event enraged Marina, understandably, and after that, she refused to talk to her sister and distanced herself from her family on her father's side. After her child had been taken into care, Marina was determined to get him back. She started working at the deli counter of the local IGA grocery store off South Highway 231 and had recently moved into her own apartment to show social services that she was more than capable of taking care of her baby. What social services didn't know was that Marina had moved into the apartment with the help of a much older man, Toby, whom she had been having an affair with. Not only was Toby much older than Marina, but he was in fact married, and Toby knew Marina as he was a friend of the family. While the affair was taking place, Marina maintained her on-off relationship with DJ, the father of her child. Their relationship was described as rocky at best, but Marina felt that there was a genuine connection between them and that one day they might finally settle their differences and be a proper couple again and raise their child. In December of 2014, things were starting to look up for Marina. She was doing well at her job, and the prospect of college admission was drawing ever closer. New Year's Eve quickly rolled around, and what should have been a night of celebration turned into a living nightmare for the Bolter family. On December 31st, 2014, New Year's Eve, Marina went about her day, as usual, finishing up her shift at the IGA grocery store at around 6 p.m. As she was leaving work, she ran into DJ, who asked her to attend a New Year's party with him. Knowing she had to work the next day, she politely declined. DJ made several attempts to convince Marina to attend the party with him, but she was having none of it. According to DJ, after the two had finished their conversation, he watched her walk across to the Sunoco gas station close to the IGA grocery store and get into a car with a middle-aged man. The man was described as white, in his 40s or 50s, with glasses, and he drove either a silver, beige, or gold Mercury Milan, year 2009 to 2011, with multi-spoke rims, a spoiler, and a Bluetooth or shark fin antenna on top. Witnesses would later confirm that the man in the car was indeed a regular customer at the IGA grocery store, and when questioned, this unnamed man claimed that he dropped Marina at a closed pizza shop near her apartment before driving away. He told investigators that he had dropped her off at the pizza shop because Marina didn't want him to know her full address. While this story seems sketchy, Marina's mother later confirmed that this sounded like something her daughter would indeed do in order to keep herself safe. As the clock ticked down to midnight and everyone was celebrating the coming of the new year, nobody had any idea that Marina hadn't yet made it home that night. It wasn't until the next morning, when she failed to show up for work, that the alarm was raised. This was extremely out of character for Marina, and her boss at the IGA grocery store immediately called her mother, Tressie, to make sure that everything was okay. Tressie knew immediately that something was terribly wrong and jumped into her car, racing over to Marina's apartment. As she approached the apartment, she noticed that the door was locked, there was no sign of a struggle, and Marina's phone and purse were missing. Marina's apartment gave no clues as to her whereabouts, and in a panic, Tressie called the Bloomfield Police Department to report her daughter missing. Within minutes, the Bloomfield Police Department had descended upon Marina's apartment, and a missing person investigation was underway. Investigators were able to track Marina's phone and found that it had last pinged at an unreleased location 10 minutes after she had left work. Investigators have not released any further information about this location because of their pending investigation. During the search of Marina's apartment, investigators failed to find her work clothes, which suggested that she hadn't returned to her apartment at all that evening, so now they were faced with the question, where is Marina? They spoke with DJ, who relayed the story about Marina getting into a car with a middle-aged man, and it took 3 weeks for the man in question to come forward and talk to investigators. According to news reports, this unnamed man has previous convictions for abduction, along with other crimes too graphic to mention here, although he was officially ruled out as a suspect by police during the initial investigation. During their investigation, the Bloomfield police also learned that Marina had been on the phone with Toby as she was leaving work on New Year's Eve, and that he was hosting a New Year's party that he tried to persuade her to attend. During their phone call, Marina allegedly said, "Oh shit, it's DJ," before hanging up the phone. Once news got out that Marina was missing, Toby refused to speak to Tressie and only cooperated with Marina's father and his side of the family. It is bizarre that Toby sided with Marina's father's side of the family, as Marina herself was estranged from them. It later transpired that Tressie had called Toby's wife to speak to her about the affair and discovered that Toby's wife had no idea and that she'd only found out because Tressie had phoned her. Was Toby angry that Tressie had tipped off his wife about his affair, or was he siding with Marina's father to cover his own guilt? Marina's father and that side of the family firmly believe that DJ is responsible for Marina's disappearance and maintain to this day that he had something to do with it. DJ was subjected to a polygraph and passed, but just weeks after Marina disappeared, another tragedy would strike. On February 12, 2015, DJ died following an altercation in a bar with a man by the name of Michael Rogers. Rogers was not charged, as investigators deemed it to be an act of self-defense, but any knowledge that DJ had about Marina was now taken with him to the grave. There's also another person to consider in Marina's case, and that is an ex-felon who was convicted of a horrific crime against a young girl. This ex-felon lived in Marina's apartment block, and the Bloomfield police have said that they do not consider him a suspect. While researching Marina's case, very few articles came up in regards to this man, and it is hard to discern the truth about him. In an interview for NBC News, Ashley Bolter, Marina's sister-in-law, said, "Who really knows if what he, DJ, saw happen? But either way, she disappeared. There are several theories, but all we know is someone out there knows what happened when she left that store. It's like 9 out of 10 days you're fine, you just push on, then that 10th day comes and you collapse. The biggest thing is that she's a mother. The least we want is answers, so that one day we can give her little boy the information he deserves." Marina Bolter was last seen on December 31st, 2014, as described as a white female with blonde hair and blue eyes. Both of her ears are pierced, and she has a tattoo of a star with butterfly wings on her foot. She was last seen wearing a black and purple plaid peacoat, jeans with rhinestones on the back pockets, pink and white Nike Shock shoes with a purple swoosh outlined in black, and a cross necklace. The Charlie Project also mentions that she was carrying a bag with love written on the side. Anyone with any information whatsoever is asked to please contact the Bloomfield Police Department on 812-332-4411 or the Indiana State Police on 812-384-4411. Next up, Christina Bastian. 34-year-old Christina Bastian worked as an English teacher at Silverado High School in Apple Valley, California in 2015 and was well liked by her students and those in her community. In recent years, Christina had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and was working with doctors and mental health professionals to help manage her condition. She had been prescribed medication, which she had stopped in the months before she disappeared. Sources state that Christina came off her medication after counseling her doctor and began telling family and friends that God had healed her. When she first came off the medication, she seemed as though she was doing well. However, this slowly changed, and just days before she was last seen, Christina's mood and personality dramatically shifted. In late October of 2015, Christina began exhibiting bizarre behavior, telling her friends and family that someone had broken into her apartment and that someone was watching her and following her every move. Christina was inconsolable, despite her friends and family trying to reassure that everything was okay. In an attempt to make her feel safe, friends and family allowed her to stay with them for a few days, promising her that everything would be all right. However, Christina's behavior only worsened over the coming days, and the day before she disappeared, she drove from Apple Valley, California to Phoenix, Arizona for reasons that are unknown. According to Christina's mother, Cheryl, she received a phone call from her daughter telling her that she was in Phoenix. Reports indicate that after this, Christina took the SIM card out of her phone and then smashed the phone to bits. On the day before her disappearance, Christina also spoke to her brother-in-law and cryptically told him, "I don't want to be Christina Bastian anymore." This chilling statement was a premonition of what was to come, and Christina also told him that she wanted to disappear. By the next day, this premonition, if that's what it was, had come true, and Christina was nowhere to be found. On November 1st, 2015, Christina arrived at a friend's house in Apple Valley after the two agreed that Christina could stay the night. This wasn't unusual for Christina, and in the previous weeks, she'd been overly paranoid that someone had broken into her apartment and that someone was trying to get her. She brought with her some valuable items as well as everyday items such as her bag, purse, and glasses, along with her beloved dog, Coco. The full details of what happened that night have never been released, but according to the Charlie Project, Christina left her friend's house at around 1:45 a.m. after becoming upset. It is unknown whether the two had an actual disagreement or whether Christina's paranoia and altered mental state took over. According to the friend, Christina jumped into her silver two-door Dodge Ram 1500 pickup and drove away into the night. Her friend hoped that Christina would return after taking a short drive to clear her head, but as the sun rose, there was no sign of Christina. That same night, 46 miles away on Highway 247 near Boddick Road in Johnson Valley, California, the California Highway Patrol found some of Christina's personal items scattered on the side of the highway. It wasn't until the next morning that her car was found abandoned a further 37 miles away near Valley View Road and 29 Palms Highway. Investigators who discovered the car noted that it was covered in dents and scrapes, almost as if it had been driven through rocky terrain. Christina's family held their collective breath as the news of the discovery of her car was relayed to them, but as the investigators went through the details, they realized that there was still no sign of Christina. Their concern grew as the hours passed, knowing that she was in an altered state of mind with no car, no wallet, no ID, and no glasses, as she had left all these items behind at her friend's house the night before. Also, on November 1st, 2015, Christina's beloved dog, Coco, was found wandering in Apple Valley on the side of Highway 18. A kind stranger took Coco in and put up flyers and posters appealing for the owner to come forward. Christina's family were alerted to this and chose for Coco to remain in the woman's care while they searched for Christina. As the days went on, the search for Christina continued, with local police forces and volunteers turning out in droves to look for her, but sadly, no sign of her was to be found. It wasn't until 11 days later that a horrific discovery was made near Bear Valley Road in Apple Valley. The area is described as being a dirt road, and the location of the discovery only added to the fears of the investigators and Christina's family. On the side of this dirt road, a passerby noticed a discarded backpack, and upon opening it, they found medication, money, and photographs that all belonged to Christina. This discovery was called in to the Apple Valley PD, who used canines and helicopters to search the area, but sadly, no other clues were to be found. Cheryl, Christina's mother, believes that her daughter may be in Yucca Valley or the surrounding area and is homeless or living a transient lifestyle. In a Facebook post to the page Help Find Christina Bastion in July 2018, Cheryl wrote, "A couple of months ago, a young, well-kept homeless man identified Christina by name from a picture. He was in front of the Walmart in Yucca Valley, California. I believe she is there. If you see her, please snap a picture and send it to me. I miss her more than words can express." According to other posts made on this page, Cheryl has received several emails and tips from people in California and beyond who believe that they have seen Christina panhandling and begging for change. Christina Bastion was last seen on November 1st, 2015 in Apple Valley, California. She is described as a white female with red hair, brown eyes, 5 foot 6 inches tall, and weighs about 170 pounds. Christina's ears and cartilage are pierced. She has a scar on her thumb, a scar on her right eyebrow, and a tattoo of a cherry blossom with Chinese writing on her left ankle and foot. She also needs glasses to see, however, these were left behind at the time of her disappearance. Cheryl told the media that without her glasses, Christina can only see about 6 inches in front of her, and all she had with her at the time of her disappearance was the pair of contacts she was wearing. Christina was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and requires medication for her condition. However, she had stopped taking these months before she disappeared, apparently with her doctor's permission, according to her. Anyone with any information is asked to contact the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department at 909-387-3690 or the Apple Valley PD at 760-240-7400. Next, we have Kaya Taylor. 28-year-old Kaya Taylor has been described by friends and family as a lively, warm, and affectionate person who would go out of her way to help those in need. At the time of her disappearance, Kaya was living in Plant City, Florida with her boyfriend, although some reports state that she was couch surfing and staying with friends. Kaya's family have created the Facebook page Finding Kaya in an attempt to gather as much information as possible and spread the word about her disappearance. Her family has also been very vocal about the lack of progress made in her case. In August of 2020, her family made a post to the Facebook page laying out the facts of Kaya's case and asking anyone with information to contact the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. Kaya Taylor was last seen at around 4 p.m. on February 6, 2020, dropping her boyfriend off at his friend's house located off Cowart and Trapnell Road in Plant City, Florida. According to her boyfriend, his friend, and his friend's father, They all saw Kaya dropping off her boyfriend before leaving to make her way to Lakeland, where she was due to stay with a friend. Unfortunately, Kaya never arrived at her friend's house in Lakeland, and this friend informed her boyfriend that she'd never shown up days later. Just 3 hours after Kaya was last seen, her car was discovered abandoned on the railway tracks on Trapnell Road. Kaya's family has stated that this railway was out of use and maintenance works were being carried out on the tracks. A concerned citizen noticed the car and called the police to alert them to the situation and get it moved. Plant City Police Department arrived at the scene and found that Kaya's car was still running, with the windows open, facing northbound, and that her phone was on the floor of the vehicle. Somewhat oddly, instead of running her plates, the officer who attended the scene got into Kaya's car and moved it to the side of the railway tracks. For another 3 days, Kaya's car sat at the edge of these tracks until her boyfriend's mother saw it sitting there. She went over to her son's house to let him know what was going on, and he told his mother that Kaya was supposed to be in Lakeland, so he couldn't understand why her car had been abandoned where it was. During the worst, Kaya's boyfriend called a friend in Lakeland who confirmed that she'd never arrived. After this, Kaya's boyfriend called her mother to let her know that her daughter hadn't been seen since February 6th and that her car had been abandoned. After being notified that her daughter had gone missing, Kaya's mother went to collect her car that had been left at the side of the railroad tracks. Inside the car, she found Kaya's phone and wallet. This sent alarm bells ringing, and Kaya's mother called the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office to report her daughter missing. 4 days after she was last seen, Kaya Taylor was officially listed as a missing person, and an investigation was opened. In the days following Kaya's disappearance, friends, family, and members of the local community gathered to help canvass the area and aid the police in their search for her. The police used scent dogs, helicopters, as well as officers on the ground, all combing through the area looking for Kaya. A forensic examination was conducted on Kaya's car, however, this yielded no results. Kaya's family remained strong, canvassing the area, putting up flyers, and talking to residents who may have seen something. They also held a vigil to help bring awareness to Kaya's disappearance, but despite the media coverage and attention, no one came forward with any information. The first clue didn't come until February 26, 2020, 20 days after Kaya had last been seen. According to the Facebook post made by Kaya's family, 20 days after Kaya's disappearance on February 26, her shoes were found located not too far from her car, next to a light pole that had her picture on it attached to a missing persons flyer. Family, friends, and police officers searched this area prior, and the shoes were not there. It's as if someone placed them there. Another puzzling clue that was uncovered during the investigation was Kaya's last text to her boyfriend, which read, "So you are going to send your white supremacist friends to take care of me?" A post written for the Bear Press mentioned that Kaya is biracial and that her boyfriend's social media was filled with posts of the Confederate flag and other racist propaganda. Kaya's mother also confirmed to People.com that Kaya had recently fallen in with a bad crowd and had possibly been experimenting with drugs. Since Kaya's shoes were discovered in February 2020, her case has gone cold, despite the best efforts of her family to keep her name in the media. Kaya Taylor remains missing, and her family are offering a $10,000 reward for any information that leads to her whereabouts. We'd also like to mention that Kaya's boyfriend has not been named publicly, and the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office have stated that he is not a suspect in Kaya's disappearance. Kaya Taylor was last seen on February 6, 2020, and is described as a biracial African-American white mix. Female, 5 foot 6 inches tall and 170 pounds, with auburn red hair and brown eyes. Kaya has multiple tattoos, an infinity symbol on her left upper chest, 2 X's with a rose on the back of her shoulder, a rose on the inside of her forearm, a sun on her upper right thigh, and a ladybird on her left calf. She was last seen wearing a blue, gray, red, and white striped short-sleeved mini dress, tan knee-high boots, and possibly a pink cardigan. Anyone with any information is urged to please contact the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office at 813-247-8200. Next, we have Jake Latios. 22-year-old Jake Latios was last seen on the Interstate 10 bridge over the Mississippi River in Baton Rouge on August 29, 2014 at around 2 a.m. A passerby told investigators they had spoke to Jake at around 2 a.m. as he was sitting next to his pickup truck on the bridge. Jake informed the stranger that he was on his way to West Baton Rouge But sadly, Jake never made it there. A few hours later, the Baton Rouge Police Department received a bizarre call that kick-started the search for Jake. In the early morning hours of August 29, 2014, the Baton Rouge Police Department were called to the Interstate 10 bridge when an anonymous caller reported seeing a person jump from the bridge into the waters below. The person calling did not want to give their identity, and it appears they were not at the scene when the police arrived. The Baton Rouge police took this call very seriously and dispatched officers to the scene. However, when they arrived, they couldn't find anything. They looked into the water below, but saw no sign of anyone having jumped. A dive team was called to the area to recover any remains or rescue the person, but again, the dive team found nothing. What the Baton Rouge Police Department did find was Jake's pickup truck, still running, abandoned on the side of the road. Inside the vehicle were Jake's phone, cigarettes, and a trolling motor that he had just purchased, but his wallet and crutches that he was using at the time were nowhere to be found. At the time of his disappearance, Jake had a broken foot and right hand and was wearing an orthopedic boot as well as using crutches to get around. His crutches weren't recovered from the bridge nor the water, leaving authorities with more questions than answers. Jake's mother, Tina Leclerc, told NBC if he jumped off the bridge, his crutches would have been found. They would have been left in his room by his truck on the bridge, floating in the water. Jake's case only became more bizarre when his mother, Tina, visited his apartment after the Baton Rouge Police Department contacted her to let her know that his truck had been found abandoned on the side of the bridge. She told NBC, "When I got there, it automatically seemed suspicious. The window was punched out. There were holes in the wall. His personal items were missing, including his TV set. Just everything was a mess." Several years had passed since Jake disappeared, and sadly, the Baton Rouge Police Department are still no closer to solving his case. According to a Facebook post made to the Help Find Missing Jake Allen Latios page in August 2021, his crutches were located much later at an undisclosed time and location, but no further information has been provided about this fact. His mother, Tina, believes that Jake met with foul play and that someone staged it to look like he took his own life. Tina said she is ready for whatever outcome and just wants to know the truth of what happened to her son. 22-year-old Jake Latios was last seen on August 29, 2014, on the Interstate 10 bridge in Baton Rouge. He is described as a white male with brown hair, brown eyes, stands approximately 5 foot 9 inches tall, and weighs between 130 and 150 pounds. Jake has a cross-shaped scar on his left wrist, and at the time of his disappearance, he had a broken foot, a broken right hand, and was using an orthopedic boot and crutches. Anyone with any information is urged to please contact the Baton Rouge Police Department at 225-389-4617. And finally, Audrey Mae Herron. 31-year-old Audrey Mae Herron was a devoted mother of 3 and a nurse living in Catskill, New York at the time of her disappearance. When Audrey was just 22, she gave birth to her first child, Sonsia, and with the help of her parents, continued her studies and eventually became a full-time nurse at a nearby nursing home. Audrey later went on to marry Jeff Herron, and the couple had 2 more children, Katie and Quinn. The blended family quickly meshed together, with Sonsia telling True Crime Daily, "Even though I wasn't his child, he still considered me his daughter, and I called him Dad." Life for the Herrons was going smoothly. 2002, Sonsia was 10 years old, and a few days before Labor Day weekend, she had just returned to her Catskill home from Florida, where she had spent the last month with her grandmother, Shirley, which was Audrey's mother. Shirley revealed that Audrey had just been given a raise at work and was excited to see her daughter after she'd been away for so long. Audrey's shifts saw her working until 11 p.m. at night, and Shirley agreed that this would be far too late for her to pick Sonsia from her home. Sonsia stayed the night at her grandmother's house, waiting eagerly for her mother to come and pick her up on the morning of August 30th, 2002. But sadly, that knock at the door and the familiar shout of Sonsia's name never came. Shirley told Dateline, "I called Audrey and she said she had a doctor's appointment the next morning, but she would pick Sonsia up after that." Shirley was surprised when the phone rang at 6 a.m. the next morning and she heard Jeff on the other end of the phone, asking if she had seen Audrey. She told NBC, "Jeff called and asked if Audrey was at my house. It would not have been unusual for her to stay over with me, but normally she would have called him to let him know. I said she wasn't here, but I didn't think anything of it, so I dozed back off. Shirley's slumber was interrupted an hour later by another phone call from Jeff. This time he sounded more panicked. He told Shirley that Audrey hadn't returned home from work the previous evening. According to Shirley, she relayed this information to a family member who used to work in law enforcement, who in turn reported Audrey as missing. A wide-scale search began, and the local police, along with Audrey's family, began canvassing the area. During their investigation, the New York State Police came across CCTV footage that confirmed Audrey left work on the evening of August 29, 2002, in her black 1999 Jeep Grand Cherokee. New York State Police Detective Kaminsky said, "We only have one grainy video from Cumberland Farms in which it appears that Audrey's vehicle does leave her place of employment and basically turn left going west on County Route 23B. That's the last of any kind of technology we had. We can't confirm it's the vehicle because of the quality of the video, but it appears to be. The quality of the video was very poor and very grainy, but it does appear to leave at the time she would have ended work." Armed with this new piece of information, investigators began searching bodies of water and any other areas that Audrey may have ended up, but came up with nothing. There was no activity on her phone, credit, or debit cards since August 29, 2002, and the investigation quickly went cold. Tips and leads have been followed to their end, and almost 20 years later, we are still asking the question, where is Audrey Herron? Jeff, Audrey's husband, has been described as uncooperative by the New York State Police. He has voluntarily undergone a polygraph test, and his property has been searched extensively. Nothing was found in connection with Audrey's disappearance. The New York State Police have said that Jeff is not considered a suspect, but that they are considering her case a homicide rather than a missing person case. Audrey was last seen leaving her workplace on August 29, 2002, in her black 1994 Jeep Grand Cherokee, New York license plate X233UV. Audrey is described as a white female with dark blonde to light brown hair, hazel eyes. She stands 5 foot tall and weighs 105 pounds. Audrey has a scar on her right thumb and a mole on the inside of her right knee. She was last seen wearing a blue turtleneck, dark green medical scrubs, a yellow gold necklace with a pendant that says "Number 1 Mom," and a watch with a white leather band and a white metal face. Anyone with any information is asked to please contact the New York State Police at 518-622-8600. Well, folks, there you have it. What do you think of these creepy cases? Somewhere, somebody knows the truth. Hopefully, the day will come when all these cases can be solved and the families can have the closure that they deserve. Thank you for listening. I look forward to your comments, but please keep it friendly and respectful. Meanwhile, be good to yourselves and each other. Be careful out there, and I'll see you a little farther on down the trail. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'll talk to you next time. Hello, friends. This is episode number 5 in our Creepy Cases series. Although many of the cases we cover on the channel have at least some bizarre, strange element to them, these are 5 more hand-picked cases that we feel have the highest creep factor. Join us. Number 5, Marilyn Bergeron. 24-year-old Marilyn Bergeron was once a happy and positive young woman, but in late 2007, her family noticed a troubling change in her. Her outlook had changed from a positive one to a gloomy one, and it was clear that something was bothering her. She was often tearful and told her mother that she didn't have healthy relationships, but did not disclose exactly what the problem was. By early 2008, Marilyn had moved from her apartment in Hochelaga-Maisonneuve back to her parents' house in Quebec, telling them that she no longer felt safe living where she had been. The neighborhood in which Marilyn lived was notorious for criminal activity and was described as an impoverished area with many issues. She had moved there in 2005 and had taken up freelance work with local TV stations and was slowly beginning to pull her career together. But something had changed in recent months, and the events of February 2008 would send her family on a hunt for justice and answers. Between February 15th and 16th, Marilyn made trips between the two places, moving her things and saying goodbye to her friends. Everyone tried to talk to Marilyn, pleading with her to let them know what was wrong. Her family later told investigators that any attempt to talk to Marilyn about her problems would result in her breaking down and shutting down the conversation. She'd even cryptically ask her sister, "Is there a light at the end of the tunnel?" During the move, her family tried to coax more information out of her, but each time she shut them down, showing a blank expression or simply breaking down in tears. It was at this point that her family referred her to a psychologist and hoped that the move back home would provide her with a safe and comfortable place to recover and explore her issues with a medical professional. According to the psychologist that saw Marilyn, her case was big and would require hospitalization. Unfortunately, Marilyn disappeared before any further help or intervention could be offered. Her family were incredibly worried for her well-being and asked her if someone had hurt her or whether she had problems with a relationship, debt, etc. But each time, Marilyn said, "Oh, everything's fine." By February 17, 2008, Marilyn had moved all of her things back into the family home and was resettling herself in a familiar environment. She told her family that she wanted to leave her life in Montreal behind for good, and her family said that they would help her along the way. At around 11 a.m. on February 17, 2008, Marilyn left the family home for what unfortunately would be the last time. She told her mother that she was going for a walk and that she would be back soon. She stepped out of the house wearing only a long black coat with gray fake fur trim and boots and headed off on her walk. The next time that Marilyn would be spotted was on CCTV, and she had an unusual item with her. At 11:09 a.m., Marilyn was seen on CCTV at an ATM on Boulevard de la Lumière, attempting to withdraw $60 Canadian, but the transaction failed. Her family believes that she had simply forgotten her PIN number, but her behavior while at the cash machine raised several alarms. The card that Marilyn attempted to use was a credit card that was linked to her father that she had been given in case of emergency. In the footage, Marilyn is seen looking over her shoulder several times and appears very paranoid. Marilyn's mother also noticed that she was wearing a black backpack over one shoulder, an item that she had not had with her when she left the house. So where had she gotten this strange backpack? And what were her plans? Things only grow more mysterious with the next confirmed sighting of Marilyn, which occurred at 4:03 p.m. in the Café Depot at St. Romuald. Now, going to a coffee shop isn't an out-of-the-ordinary activity, but the fact that this coffee shop was over 12 miles away from her home was rather suspicious. Why was Marilyn in a coffee shop so far away from home when the neighborhoods around her had plenty of coffee shops she could have visited? The barista who served Marilyn in this particular coffee shop was later questioned and confirmed that Marilyn was alone and paid with a credit card. She ordered her coffee and then walked out of the coffee shop, never to be seen again. After this sighting, Marilyn has never been seen or heard from. There's been no activity on her phone or the card, and it's as if she simply dropped off the map. Investigators believe that Marilyn was driven to the coffee shop 12 miles away from her home, as the weather conditions would have made it near impossible for her to walk that far. It is unknown whether the possibility of public transport has ever been explored in this instance. When Marilyn failed to return home, her family knew that something was very wrong and called the police straight away. After learning about Marilyn's situation and the circumstances leading up to her disappearance, the search for her began immediately, with police scouring the area and combing through her bank records and CCTV footage. Unfortunately, the two CCTV sightings previously mentioned are the only confirmed sightings of Marilyn. The police have put out numerous appeals for anyone who may have seen Marilyn or may have given her a ride to please come forward. So far, nobody has. There have been several alleged sightings of Marilyn, including sightings in Hawkesbury, Ontario. According to reports, people have seen a woman matching Marilyn's description in Hawkesbury in the company of a man. The two were often known to move around the town, and those who saw her said that she looked anxious and like she was possibly being held captive. Unfortunately, None of these sightings have ever been substantiated, and despite numerous searches by both the police and Marilyn's family, no sign of her has ever been found. Her family are of the opinion that she took her own life, but friends have alluded to something much, much darker. In late 2007, Jonathan Gauthier, who knew Marilyn from college, met up with her and noticed that her personality and behavior had completely changed. She was no longer the happy and lively Marilyn that he once knew. The night that they met up, they had attended a party before heading back to Marilyn's apartment. It was here that she broke down crying. Jonathan rushed to her side to comfort her. He tried to get more information from her and pressed the matter, asking whether she had witnessed something horrific or if something horrific had happened to her. According to Jonathan, Marilyn told him, "No, it's worse. Joe, you can't even imagine what I went through." Sadly, she didn't elaborate any further. The investigation into Marilyn's disappearance has continued over the years, with her family initially posting a $10,000 Canadian reward for information. This amount has now grown to $30,000 Canadian, but we are still no closer to finding out what happened to Marilyn. Her mother told the CBC in 2017, "Marilyn, if you're still alive, for us it's like yesterday you disappeared. We love you. We're waiting for you with open arms, and we miss you so much." Her family believed that Marilyn's life was either in danger or that she perceived to have been in danger in Montreal, and believes that her friends and associates may hold the answers. Marilyn Bergeron was last seen on February 17, 2008, has not been seen or heard from since. Marilyn displayed worrying behavior in the lead-up to her disappearance, and there have been several unconfirmed sightings of her in the Hawkesbury, Ontario area. Marilyn is described as a white female with brown hair, green eyes, 5'7" and 115 pounds. She has a tattoo of Pegasus on her chest, below her right collarbone, and she was last seen wearing boots and a black coat with gray fake fur trim. Anyone with any information is urged to please contact the Quebec Police Services at 418-641-6291. Quote case number 2008-18087. Or you can contact the family's lawyer, Mark Belmer, on 418-681-1227 or toll free 1-800-840-1526. Number 4. Andrew Gosden. The disappearance of 14-year-old Andrew Gosden is one of the UK's most baffling missing person cases. South Yorkshire police have worked tirelessly over the years to find Andrew, but there have been very few leads to work on. Those from the UK will have many strong memories on Andrew's disappearance and the media storm and investigation that followed. It's been over a decade since Andrew disappeared, and the South Yorkshire police are still no closer to cracking this mystifying case. Andrew Gosden lived in Balby, Doncaster, South Yorkshire, with his parents Kevin and Glenys. The two provided Andrew with a happy and stable home life, and as a result, he was flourishing academically. He was in the Young, Gifted, and Talented program at school and had a perfect attendance record. It was clear that Andrew was destined for great things academically, and he excelled in every subject at school. With this, Andrew's father Kevin said that he was not streetwise and preferred to stay home and play on his Xbox and listen to metal music. This behavior is not uncommon for teenagers, and his parents were happy that he was flourishing academically and did have a small social circle of friends, good, dependable ones. The lives of the Gosden family would be turned upside down one September afternoon, however, shortly after the new school year had started. Andrew had spent part of his summer holiday, which was 6 weeks, attending a Gifted and Talented program, and was apparently very happy and had a bright outlook for what lay ahead of him after he'd finished school. But September 14, 2007 was different. Something inside Andrew had changed, and within the space of a few hours, his parents would be thrown into a missing person investigation that has spanned over a decade. On September 14, 2007, Andrew got up and got ready for school as normal. He said goodbye to his parents and headed out the front door at around 8:05 a.m. By all accounts, this was just another day at school, and Andrew was seen heading toward the bus stop. However, instead of boarding the bus to school, Andrew kept walking and headed into the local park. Nobody knows why Andrew chose to skip school that day. but we do know that he waited in the park until around 8:30 a.m. By this time, his parents would have left for work, and Andrew knew that he would have the house to himself. This is just the beginning of the bizarre details surrounding the disappearance of Andrew Gosden, and things only become more mysterious from here. After waiting in the park, as we said, Andrew returned home, took off his school uniform, and put it straight into the washing machine. He changed into a Slipknot t-shirt, dark jeans, and packed his bag with his keys, wallet, and his PSP gaming system. Andrew didn't take his PSP charger with him, which indicated that he probably had every intention of coming back. But unfortunately, that is not what happened. As Glennis and Kevin went about their workday, they had no idea that their son was headed to Doncaster train station. Bank records confirmed that Andrew withdrew £200 from his account, leaving about £14 in the balance. Andrew walked into Doncaster train station, went up to the ticket office, and bought a one-way ticket to London. The woman who served Andrew recalled telling him that for just 50p extra, he could get a return ticket, but Andrew declined. He confidently stated that he wanted the one-way ticket, handed over the money, took the ticket, and made his way to the platform. No one knows why Andrew bought a ticket to London, nor why he only bought a one-way ticket. Was Andrew planning to meet with someone in London who had promised to take him back home, or did he plan to stay in London indefinitely? Witnesses reported seeing Andrew boarding the 9:35 a.m. train to London King's Cross Station, and by 11:25 a.m., he was captured on CCTV leaving King's Cross. This is the last confirmed sighting of Andrew, and over a decade later, we are still no closer to the truth. When Andrew's school noticed that he was absent that day, his parents were called. However, a clerical error was made and the wrong number was dialed. It wasn't until Glennis and Kevin arrived home from work to find Andrew's uniform in the house that they knew something was off. After calling out Andrew's name and searching all over the house, his parents realized that he was missing and dialed 999. South Yorkshire police responded to the call immediately, and the search for Andrew commenced. The area of Bobby was searched thoroughly, and investigators began combing through Andrew's life. At the time of his disappearance, Andrew didn't have a phone, as he was known to lose them, and preferred to spend time on his Xbox and listening to music anyway. Flyers, posters, and news reports were circulated around South Yorkshire and Yorkshire, with the South Yorkshire police hoping that somebody would come forward with information. As the days passed and there was no word, the Gosdens began to realize that the situation that they were in was incredibly serious. Then, days after Andrew disappeared, the South Yorkshire police got their first lead. The woman who sold Andrew the ticket at Doncaster train station came forward, and from here, the police were able to check CCTV and confirm that Andrew had traveled to King's Cross. Sadly, Andrew was not spotted on CCTV after he left King's Cross station, and CCTV in the surrounding areas failed to show up anything. Now, there are three main theories in Andrew's case, with the first being that he was lured away by someone online. As we said, Andrew had an Xbox and a PSP, but forensic analysis of these and the data showed that Andrew was not registered online with an account. He reportedly didn't even use the family computer and didn't really touch online communications at all. This was backed up by digital forensic investigations that failed to turn up any online presence from Andrew whatsoever. His family did confirm to investigators that Andrew knew several people who lived in London, but none of these people have reported seeing Andrew on the date of or after his disappearance. The next theory that was well publicized in the British media was that Andrew had possibly gone to London to attend a gig or some sort of music-related event. Andrew loved his metal music, and a few gigs were going on around that time. But if that were the case, then why would he buy a one-way ticket? There were no sightings of Andrew at any of these music events, and there has been no proof to suggest that Andrew had tickets for any of these events either. The last theory is one that Andrew's father, Kevin, came up with. Kevin postulated that perhaps Andrew left to start a new life somewhere without the intervention of his family. His family were religious, but also said that they were open to sexuality and gender expression. This theory ties in with an interesting clue that came to light in 2018. It's important to preface this next section by saying that Andrew's nickname was Rue, and it was a nickname that only those closest to him knew and called him. According to reports, an anonymous witness told the police that in 2018, he had a conversation with someone online by the name of Andy Rue. The two people had started talking, and Andy Rue asked the anonymous witness for £200 so that he could pay his rent. This Andy Rue person went on to explain that he had left home at 14 and didn't have a bank account, so sending money via bank transfer would be difficult. He said that he needed the money because his boyfriend had left him, but never went into further detail about his private life. This lead gave the Metropolitan Police and the South Yorkshire Police a glimmer of hope, but it appears the person calling themselves Andy Rue has never been formally identified, and we cannot confirm whether or not this person is Andrew Gosden. Following Andrew's disappearance, his family traveled to London to hand out flyers and to appeal to witnesses and anyone with information to come forward. Kevin and Glynis have been the driving force behind keeping Andrew's name in the media, and they've continued to put pressure on the South Yorkshire Police and the Metropolitan Police to investigate his disappearance. This case has been incredibly well publicized, and in towns and cities across the UK, Andrew's missing person poster can still be seen. The charity UK Missing Persons works with the families of those who are missing to create posters, and they also run a tip line for those with information or for those who are missing and need someone to talk to. Despite all this media attention and investigation, no trace of Andrew has ever been located. After he left King's Cross Station, he seemingly vanished into thin air, and the investigation has laid dormant ever since. Well, that was until January 22, when once again the Andrew Gosden case made headlines. On January 11, 2022, the BBC published an article titled, "Andrew Gosden, 2 men arrested for trafficking and kidnap." This headline shocked the nation, and the details of the arrest would shock them even more. According to the BBC, 2 men, aged 38 and 45, were arrested in December in London on suspicion of kidnap and human trafficking. The 45-year-old man was also arrested on suspicion of possessing indecent images. The 2 men were released on bail pending a further investigation, and the Metropolitan Police and the South Yorkshire Police are currently working the case. No further details have been released in regards to these charges, and the police are keeping their cards very close to their chests. Throughout the years, several age progression photos have been issued to show what Andrew may look like now as an adult. The River Thames has been searched numerous times by divers and with a sonar scanner, but this has not turned up any leads either. The South Yorkshire Police and the Metropolitan Police, along with Andrew's family, continue to search for him and hope that one day they will have answers or at least closure. Andrew Gosden was last seen wearing a Slipknot t-shirt, dark jeans, and was carrying a bag containing his keys, wallet, and PSP gaming system. He had bought a one-way ticket from Doncaster to King's Cross, London, and was last seen leaving King's Cross Station at 11:25 a.m. on September 14, 2007. Andrew has brown hair, has a unique double ridge on his right ear, is deaf in his left ear, and wears strong prescription glasses. Anyone with any information is asked to please contact 101 UK Missing People on 116000, the South Yorkshire Police on 0114 220 2020, the Metropolitan Police on 4420 7230 1212, or Crime Stoppers on 0800 555 111. Number 3, Ben Padilla. The disappearance of Ben Padilla is a confusing and complex case, and it requires a bit of background information to process his disappearance. In 2002, American Airlines retired a Boeing 727-223 with registration N844AA, and this plane was purchased by Maury Joseph, who owned an aerospace company in Florida. Different sources give different stories, but the main gist of the situation is that a businessman came and leased the plane, located in Angola, from Maury, only to default on his payments or abandon the plans that he had for the plane. Apparently, this businessman wanted to use the plane to transport oil to diamond mines across Angola, and this same businessman and Maury Joseph had come to a payment agreement that never came to fruition. This meant that the plane went back into storage and racked up over $4 million in airport fees. The plane with number N844AA was then back in the hands of Maury Joseph, who brought Ben Padilla on board. Ben was a certified aircraft mechanic, flight engineer, and pilot, and he was perfect for the job. The N844AA was 25 years old, and it needed repair work done to it before it was suitable for use. So Ben got to work fixing up the plane, and all was going well. That was until May 25, 2003, when something truly bizarre happened. On this day, the plane was due to fly from Angola to Germany, but as the crew arrived at the airport for their flight, they noticed that the plane had gone. Everyone checked their watches to ensure that they had not made a mistake, but the events that would follow would only confuse them further. Shortly after the crew arrived, Air Traffic Control noticed Boeing 727 N844AA taxiing erratically on the runway. Several attempts were made by Air Traffic Control to establish contact, however, no one responded. All air traffic could do was watch on as the Boeing took off into the skies. The only two men on board were Ben Padilla and a man named John Michael Mutantu, who had been working alongside Ben as an aircraft technician. The plane had not been cleared for takeoff at that time, and had also not submitted a flight plan, which immediately caught the attention of Air Traffic Control. Several more attempts were made to establish contact, but as the plane soared higher into the sky, their attempts proved futile. Now, as the plane was being used for private business, the seats had been ripped out and it was made to carry diesel fuel. Regardless of who or what was on board, Air Traffic Control was on red alert, and soon the word of the rogue plane had spread. This incident, just 2 years shy of 9/11, sent a wave of panic through Angola. Officials tried desperately to track the plane, but found nothing. The plane had been fueled up with over 14,000 gallons of jet fuel, which would only taken the plane about 2,400 miles. Well, as you know, what goes up must come down, but as the days dragged on, there were no reports of a Boeing 727 with ID number N844AA landing at any airport, nor were there any reports of a crash. The plane had seemingly taken off and vanished into thin air, almost if it had flown right into a portal. According to reports, the plane, with its lights off and its transponder not transmitting, N844AA took off over the southwest and headed out over the Atlantic Ocean. So where did Ben Padilla go, and what happened to the 727 that seemingly disappeared into thin air? One theory is that the mysterious disappearance is down to insurance fraud. As previously mentioned, the plane was due to be leased by someone. However, the deal fell through, and the plane ended up procuring millions of dollars in fees the time it was stored at the airport in Angola. Some people are of the opinion that Maury Joseph and Ben Padilla planned the plane's disappearance in order to claim insurance to help pay those fees. Another theory is perhaps the two men were on the plane at the wrong time, and they were forced to fly the plane to wherever the hijacker demanded. The FBI, NSA, and the CIA became involved in the search for Ben and the missing Boeing 727, along with several other countries. But so far, nothing has ever been discovered or recovered. When Ben first took the job, his brother recalled having a conversation with him about hijacking. Ben told his brother that he would rather crash the plane than comply with anyone's demands, and wondered whether Ben was harmed or was being held against his will somewhere. The investigation into Ben's sudden disappearance and the disappearance of the Boeing 727 is still ongoing, but very little evidence has surfaced. Ben Padilla is described as a white male with brown hair, brown eyes, and stands 6 foot 2 inches tall. The Boeing 727-223 has a tail number of N844AA and the serial number 20985. The plane also is an unpainted silver color with a stripe of red, white, and blue. Anyone with information about Ben or the plane is asked to contact the FBI at 202-324-3000. Number 2, Melanie Ethier. September 28, 2022 will mark the 26th anniversary of the disappearance of 15-year-old Melanie Nadia Ethier from her home in New Liskeard, Ontario. Born on Christmas Day in 1980, Melanie was a great joy in her mother's life and to all those who knew her. Melanie, her 5-year-old sister Jessie, and her mother Celine had lived in the New Liskeard area for almost 9 years, and those in the community knew Melanie well. Melanie was known for her vibrant personality and the fact that she was an honors student at the École Secondary Catholic School. Melanie had dreams of becoming a teacher after she graduated from high school, and in between completing homework, Melanie worked at a daycare that was attached to her school. This job provided Melanie with some independence and gave her valuable skills to take into her future teaching career. Unfortunately, this bright and promising young woman was taken and never got to live out her dream of being a teacher. September 28, 1996 was the day that the lives of the Etier family would change forever. On that morning, Melanie headed towards the local library after visiting a family friend and bumped into one of her friends. The two girls decided to spend the day together, and they went into the city to do a bit of shopping and relax. According to this friend, Melanie bought a cake tin and cake-making supplies so she could make a birthday cake for her grandmother. Melanie seemed excited about the trip, and the two girls enjoyed themselves. As the day wore on, the girls made plans to meet up with Melanie's boyfriend, Neil Fortier, and 3 other friends, Dave Bromley, Jay Denault, and Ryan Chatwin. The group of teenagers hung out and planned what they wanted to do together for the rest of the day and evening. September 28, 1996 was a Saturday, so the youngsters wanted to make the most of not having to go to bed early, so the group headed to a video store and rented a copy of the film Sudden Death. The original plan was to head to Melanie's house. However, as Melanie's grandparents were staying over, the house was already a hub of activity. Melanie's room was a mess, and there was no place for the teens to kick back and relax. This didn't bother them, though, and they merely decided to head to another home, eventually settling on the home of Ryan Chatwin on Pine Avenue. After wandering around calling in at their friends' homes, hoping to get a quiet room, the teens were relieved to find that Ryan's parents were upstairs, leaving them with free reign of the house. They settled in to watch the film and just to chat and enjoy each other's company. The hours ticked by, and slowly, one by one, the teens left and headed home. Melanie was one of the last to leave Ryan Chatwin's house, unaware of what her best friend had just encountered outside. That best friend would later tell investigators that when she left Ryan's house at 12:30 a.m., she saw a light-covered Chevrolet Monte Carlo, or a similar car, crawling slowly down the street. The driver of the car paid special attention to her as she walked to the place where she's being picked up, and she said that the driver scared her so much that she took off running. Between 1:30 and 2 a.m., Melanie left Ryan's house, and this would be the last time she was ever seen or heard from. Those left over at Ryan's house watched as Melanie walked down Pine Avenue and into the darkness. Her home was only about a half-mile away, but unfortunately, Melanie never completed the journey. Her disappearance wasn't noted until much later that morning, when the Etier household awoke to find no sign of Melanie. Celine, her mother, checked with Melanie's friends, hoping that she had stayed the night and just forgotten to call, but her heart sank when her friends said that she wasn't there and had left about 2 a.m. Celine rushed to the daycare where Melanie worked, and she wasn't there either. And that was the moment she knew it was serious. She picked up the phone and called the police. The New Liskeard police, along with the Ontario Provincial Police, began their search for Melanie and began knocking on doors of homes and businesses in the community. Melanie's personal life was looked at, and those who were with her on the night she disappeared were also questioned. Investigators were very interested in the account given by Melanie's best friend and believe that Melanie may have either been targeted or may have been mistakenly targeted, as her attackers may have believed she was someone else. Helicopters, scent dogs, and search and rescue personnel combed through New Liskeard, looking for any sign of Melanie, but nothing could be found. It was as if she had simply vanished. There were a few reports of a girl matching Melanie's description walking on the Armstrong Street Bridge across the Wabi River. The Wabi River has been searched by dive teams, but nothing was ever found. Multiple searches were conducted, but so far, the police have yet to find any evidence of what happened to Melanie. Her mother, Celine, made a post to the Let's Work Together to Find Melanie Etier Facebook group in November 2020. Here's part of that post. For many years, I felt that Melanie is no longer alive, and I know that finding the truth about her disappearance will not change that. I'm not driven by justice, anger, or vengeance. I'm a mother searching for a missing child so that I can give her the dignified memorial she deserves and enable my family to finally grieve, find closure, and heal. You may not be able to bring Melanie back to life, but by providing the police with the information needed to bring back her body, you can help me and my family begin to rebuild ours. Also in the Facebook group, Celine and others have made numerous posts about Dennis Levier, who is a family friend. 3 days after Melanie's disappearance, Dennis made a chilling statement to Celine's mother, who had been staying at the home for birthday celebrations. According to the grandmother, which is Celine's mother, Dennis came round to the house and was smoking a cigarette in the basement, which was extremely out of character and something that Celine wouldn't have allowed. Then, as Dennis smoked his cigarette, he chillingly told the grandmother that the person responsible had to have been very strong. As previously mentioned, Melanie had taken self-defense classes and she also loved ballet and other sports, so she was in good shape and strong for her age. That wasn't the only chilling thing that Dennis said, though. He rolled up his sleeves and showed the grandmother fresh, deep nail marks on his arm. This discovery sent chills through the Etier family, but Dennis played it off and told Celine and the family that Melanie had done that to him while they were play fighting in the days before she disappeared. Nobody in the Etier family believed Dennis's version of events, and it later transpired that Dennis was known to try and inappropriately talk to and engage with minors. The scope of Melanie's case deserves a video of its own, and many theories come up in this case. Unfortunately, Dennis passed away in 2016, taking any secrets he had with him to the grave. Many people have come forward claiming that Dennis had admitted to them that he had harmed Melanie, but these claims could never be substantiated. Celine believes that Dennis is the most likely suspect in Melanie's disappearance, and while Dennis has now passed away, she believes that someone out there has the right information to bring the right person to justice for what they did to Melanie. There are many ins and outs in this case, and Celine has been the driving force behind keeping her daughter's name in the media. She's created numerous posters, billboards, and social media accounts to help keep her daughter's memory alive and to help bring her home. Melanie Etier was last seen on September 28, 1996, on Pine Avenue in New Liskeard, Ontario. She's described as a black female with long braided black hair, brown eyes, standing 5'5" and weighing 120 pounds. She was last seen wearing a green Nike jacket, blue jeans, a white t-shirt with a blue heart Pepe logo, and black boots. Anyone with information is asked to please contact any of the following: Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477, the Liskeard Police Service at 7005-647-4388, the Ontario Provincial Police at 1-888-310-1122, or you can send an anonymous letter to Celine Etier at Box 2055, New Liskeard, Ontario, POJ 1PO. Number 1, August Reiger. 18-year-old August Reiger had recently graduated from the Classen School of Advanced Studies and was even awarded the honor of being that year's valedictorian. For August, life was just beginning and the world was truly his oyster, and he had earned himself a full scholarship at the University of Oklahoma. Unfortunately, that summer was snatched away right from under the nose of August's family, and almost a decade later on, his case remains unsolved. On June 16, 2013, August and his family took the trip of a lifetime to Ecuador to celebrate his graduation. According to his parents, Chris and Randa, August had asked for a holiday to a Spanish-speaking country as he wanted to practice his Spanish. His parents would later tell news outlets that this was just the kind of person August is, always wanting to learn and improve himself. The family packed up their things and headed to Ecuador, not knowing the horrors that awaited them. The family was staying in Banos, central Ecuador, and were counting down the days until their dream tour came around. The family had booked on to a 3-day tour of the Amazon jungle, something August was especially looking forward to. With time to spare, Chris, Randa, August, and his siblings decided to take a hike on a trail close to their hotel. This would give them a chance to experience the natural beauty that Ecuador has to offer while still being close to civilization. Unfortunately, despite being close to their hotel and other populated areas, the unthinkable happened. As the family went along the trail, August sped ahead and told them that he would wait for them at the top. The rest of the family followed behind, expecting to see August smiling and waiting for them, but he was nowhere to be found. His family looked around for him, but saw nothing. They decided to head back to the hotel, thinking that August had possibly gone there, maybe taking another route down, but as they reached their room, there was still no sign of August. The Reiger family waited, hoping that August would return. Hours later, when that didn't transpire, they reported their son missing to the Ecuadorian authorities, and 24 hours after he was last seen, a search party was established to find the missing teen. The governor's office of the province where the Reigers were staying made a statement in the wake of August's disappearance, reassuring the media and U.S. citizens watching the story closely that all efforts were being made to find the young man. Part of the statement read, "A special team of local authorities, including members of the armed forces, police, fire department, and some volunteers, were deployed in order to find Mr. Reiger." Hours slowly turned into days, and there was still no word from August. His family waited patiently for any updates or leads as to their son's whereabouts. August's missing persons poster was distributed across Ecuador, and locals kept a close eye out for him. 10 days later, a bizarre sighting was reported to the Ecuadorian authorities. According to an ABC News article written on June 26, 2013, there had been a possible sighting of August. The article goes on to say, a high school valedictorian from Oklahoma, who has been missing for more than a week in Ecuador, might have been spotted on the back of a truck headed toward the Amazon rainforest, the family told ABC News. This wouldn't be the only sighting of August, though, and as the months passed, more sightings would be called into the authorities. Christy Reiger, August's aunt, spoke to KOCO5 News in 2014, telling the station that authorities had received several credible sightings of August over the last few weeks, and that the family held out hope that August was still out there unharmed. This sentiment was also echoed on the Facebook page Find August Reiger, which is run by his family. On May 7, 2014, a post was made to the Facebook page reading, "We are excited to report that there have been a few recent sightings of August. We are grateful for the Ecuadorian citizens who are helping out of the goodness of their hearts. We will bring him home." Underneath this post, a comment was also added by the page that reads, "No more info for now. The investigation is obviously active and on the move. Sharing too much could compromise that." Since then, the Ecuadorian authorities and August's family have continued to look for him, and his family have praised the authorities and the people of Ecuador. Posters with August's face were widely distributed, and it's a case that many Ecuadorians will not forget. Years have passed since August vanished, and his family still holds out hope that he is alive somewhere. No ransom demands have ever been made, and the authorities cannot figure out why anyone would have wanted to kidnap August. There's also the theory that August fell over the edge while on the hike, but his remains have never been recovered to support this theory. August's family runs the Find August Reiger Facebook page, along with making media appearances to keep his story in the public eye. August Reiger was last seen on June 16, 2013, in the mountains of Banos in Ecuador. Photos showing possible alterations in August's appearance are available via the Facebook page. Alternatively, you can contact your nearest U.S. Embassy or consulate office. Well, folks, there you have it. What do you think of these strange and creepy disappearances? I look forward to hearing your comments. Please keep it friendly and respectful. Meanwhile, be good to yourselves and each other. Stay safe out there. As for me, I'll see you a little farther on down the trail. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'll talk to you next time. Hello friends, Steve Stockton here with you. In this video, we're going to be discussing some strange wilderness disappearances you may never have heard of. So sit back, relax, and let the stories begin. Now, for some, a walk in the wilderness can be the perfect getaway from everyday life and a chance to reconnect with Mother Nature. For others, the great outdoors can be a dangerous place and unfortunately is a place where many people meet their end or just mysteriously vanish. Here are 4 such cases for you to consider. Number 4, Brian Skalinsky. 40-year-old Brian Skalinsky was at a turning point in his life. He was admittedly in the midst of a midlife crisis and was desperately seeking answers and a purpose in his life. He told CBS Denver, "I was trying to find motivation for the next 40 years of my life. I wanted to exert myself. I didn't want to go to the extremes that I did." In a bid to clear his head and reconnect with nature, Brian headed out into the Great Sand Dunes National Park and Preserve. What should have been a life-changing expedition almost turned into a tragedy. On February 11th, Brian entered the Great Sand Dunes National Park, headed for the Coal Creek drainage area, which would have seen him hiking 10 miles around the perimeter of the park. Coal Creek drainage is located at the base of Mount Harold and would have provided Brian with spectacular views and the perfect amount of quiet time to clear his head. Sometime into his walk, the conditions changed, however, and he began to encounter snowdrifts. Any other person would probably have turned around and headed back to their car, but Brian had other ideas. In an interview with CBS Denver, he says, "I said, this isn't going to stop me. 3 feet of snow, 3 feet isn't going to stop me. 4 feet isn't going to stop me. I'm going to keep going. Why? I couldn't tell you." Unfortunately, this mistake would almost cost Brian his life. After becoming stranded, Brian soon realized the mistake he had made. He had no shelter, no extra clothing, and only 2 small meals meant to sustain him for 1 day. As the sun rose on the second day, Brian desperately tried to continue his fight to find his way home. The freezing temperatures and snow did little to help, of course, and by the 3rd day, he had to cut the laces and tongues out of his boots as they had frozen over. Now, with damaged boots, no food, no water, no warm clothes, Brian carried on walking. To make matters worse, Brian had gotten lost and had found himself on the sand dunes. His absence hadn't gone unnoticed, though, and by the 5th day of him being missing, rangers from the park noticed that his car had been parked there an unusually long time. After failing to make contact with the owner, they set about looking for him. Park rangers, along with volunteers, horse and aerial units, began scanning the park, looking for any sign of the missing man, but there was nothing to be seen. Sniffer dogs were even brought in, and while his footprints and scent were found, Brian wasn't. As the 5th day was drawing to a close, the outlook was looking very bleak for Brian, and his chance of survival was growing slimmer and slimmer by the minute. Then, a miracle happened. He told CBS Denver, "I'd given up on my mission to the stars. I saw a road, and that's when I was discovered by rescuers." He was escorted to the Great Sand Dunes Visitor Center and said, "I walk in there and I see a picture of myself on the bulletin board and a map. To be honest with you, I didn't even think people were looking for me." It was a miracle. Brian had been found alive and well after surviving for 5 days in below freezing temperatures without food, water, shelter, or adequate clothing. His extremities had suffered from frostbite, but he refused to accept medical treatment. Instead, all he asked of his rescuers was to help him get back home to New York. Brian's story doesn't end there, though. This wouldn't be the last time he would disappear into the wilderness. In early May 2017, Brian Skalinsky would hit the headlines once again when he disappeared from the Great Sand Dunes National Park and Preserve. According to reports, Brian went missing, and again, park rangers discovered his car in a picnic area and tried to track him down. When they failed to do so, they got together a search and rescue team. But this time, the outcome wasn't so bright. Unfortunately, bad weather prevented the search teams from conducting a thorough search, and on June 28, 2017, Brian's body was discovered, covered with deep snow. Number 3, Randy Rasco. On November 19, 2015, park rangers at the Mammoth Cave National Park in Kentucky noticed that a car had been sitting in the car park for around 2 weeks. This immediately set off warning bells, and after doing some digging for information, they discovered that the car belonged to 40-year-old Randy Rasco. As the car had been there for quite some time, the park rangers set about searching for Randy right away. But when he couldn't be found in or near the parking area, they opened an investigation and widened their search. Park rangers and investigators contacted Randy's family to see if they had spoken to him, but chillingly, they had been out of contact for a few months. According to his sister Sherry, up until May 2015, everything was normal. On a regular basis, he was doing his normal things, hunting, fishing, and kept in contact with our brother who lived close to his Bowling Green apartment. Then one day out of the blue, he packed up his belongings, quit his job, and had his mail forwarded to another address, and just left. Sherry said they filed a missing persons report after they found out he had just fled and were worried as he had recently gotten divorced. For a month, the Rasco family waited for any news, and in June, he was found safe and sound in Washington state. Randy made it clear that he didn't want to speak to his family at that time and wanted to be alone. As painful as it was, his family respected his boundaries and assured him they would welcome him back with open arms whenever he was ready. For the next few months, it's believed that Randy traveled all around the U.S., all while maintaining his privacy and secrecy. His family didn't know that anything was wrong until the Mammoth Cave National Park Rangers contacted them to let them know that his car had been found abandoned. With this second disappearance, his family hoped that there would be a positive resolution. But sadly, as of 2022, Randy Rasco is still missing. Search crews, volunteers, and even the Civil Air Patrol all joined in on the search for Randy, scouring the over 53,000 acres of land in the park. Despite their best efforts and multiple searches, no sign of Randy has ever been found, and his car is the only clue we have in terms of his mysterious disappearance. Randy Rasco is described as a white male, 6 foot 2 inches tall, with black hair, hazel eyes, and a slim, athletic build. Anyone with any information is asked to please contact the Mammoth Cave National Park at 270-758-2180. Number 2, Maureen Kelly. 19-year-old Maureen Kelly embarked on what she thought would be a spiritual adventure of a lifetime. However, this adventure quickly turned sour, and she's been missing ever since. On June 19th of 2013, Maureen and a group of friends arrived at the Canyon Creek Campground in the Gifford-Pinchot National Park in Washington State, ready to camp and hang out together and have a good time. The friends were relaxing and taking in the natural beauty of the park when Maureen abruptly announced that she was going on a spiritual adventure. She took off all of her clothes, removed her shoes, and was equipped with nothing but a fanny pack that is believed to have held a pocket knife, a compass, and a few matches. After declaring that she was going on a spiritual adventure, Maureen headed out into the woods, never to be seen again. Maureen didn't tell her friends how long she was going to be or even where she was headed, but they figured she would be back at least within a few hours to tell them all about her spiritual journey. As darkness rolled in and Maureen still hadn't returned, a group of friends alerted the Skamania County Sheriff's Office, and she was officially reported missing. There were added concerns about her welfare due to the fact that she'd left without clothes, shoes, food, and water, and within hours, a huge search and rescue mission began. Volunteers, park rangers, and search and rescue coordinators combed through the park, looking for any sign of her. But despite their best efforts, it was as if she had vanished into thin air. One clue did surface, however, and as search teams were looking on the ground, they came across footprints, bare footprints, that were the same size as Maureen's feet. Working on this singular clue, sniffer dogs were brought in an attempt to trace her scent, but due to the rainfall, they were unable to pick up anything. The footprints showed that Maureen had perhaps headed north towards Forest Service 54 Road, but as previously mentioned, the trail ended where the road began. Helicopters were brought in, but they were unable to search for Maureen in the initial hours and days following her disappearance due to severe weather conditions. 19-year-old Maureen Kelly remains missing, and the Skamania County Sheriff's Office is still no closer to finding out what happened to her. Many believe that she succumbed to the elements that very night, but as her body has never been found, nobody knows for sure. Maureen is described as an Asian Pacific Islander with black hair, brown eyes. She stands 5 foot 7 inches tall and weighs about 150 pounds. Anyone with any information is asked to please contact the Skamania County Sheriff's Office at 509-427-9490 and reference case number 13-04081. Number 1. Kat Hamontre. On April 11, 2019, 68-year-old Kat Hamontre, her dog Tootsie, her husband, her daughter, and a group of other hikers set off into the San Felipe Desert in Baja California, Mexico. The group were either headed for or near the Diablo Canyon, when tragedy struck. In this community, we know all about places with devil in the name. According to the Seattle Times, Kate had lived in Mexico for the past 20 years and would often make the trip to Seattle, Washington to visit her friends and family. The details surrounding Kat's disappearance are sparse, but here is what we do know. According to Kat's daughter, Desiree Blair, about 10 minutes into the hike, Kat complained that she had hurt her foot or ankle and told the group that she would take a quick break while they continued on. Her husband later commented that the injury seemed severe, and he believed that Kat may have actually broken her foot or ankle. The group left Kat and her dog Tootsie behind as they made their way to the waterfall, and as they circled back around, Kat was nowhere to be found. Her husband, Warren Sundquist, went and waited at their car, thinking that perhaps she had headed there, but she never showed up. Hours passed, and there was no sign of Kat. The group and her family reported her missing. Kat was very familiar with the area and showed no concerns about being left alone while the others finished their hike. She also apparently showed no signs of distress, making her disappearance all the more mystifying. After Kat was reported missing, search and rescue crews, volunteers, and even the Mexican Armed Forces all pitched in to help find her, but as of 2022, no trace has ever been found. The authorities in San Felipe did believe at one point that someone in the hiking group may have been responsible, however, although everyone present was questioned and no charges have ever been brought about. One theory suggests that Kat perhaps stumbled across cartel activity and that she was taken out for what she saw. Another theory is that Kat was attacked by a wild animal, but the first attending officers noted that the scene was devoid of any signs of a struggle and there was no blood. As of this recording, in March of 2022, Kat Hamontre and her dog Tootsie remain missing, and her family are desperate for answers. Anyone with any information is asked to contact the San Felipe Police Department at 686-577-1134. Well, folks, there you have it. What do you think of these strange cases? Had you heard of these before? I look forward to your comments, but please keep it friendly and respectful. In the meanwhile, be good to yourselves and each other, and I'll see you just a little farther on down the trail. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'll talk to you next time. Well, there you have it. Hope you've enjoyed this creepy case marathon. Till we meet again, be good to yourselves and each other. As for me, I'll see you a little further on down the trail. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'll talk to you next time. Tell your animals Steve says hi.